Alright, I think we're up. Make sure everything's good. Good over there, good over here. Oh shit. Naveed for 2027. Thank you, Jordan. Big appreciate that one. You sure he's good? How have you been, Jordan? Everything been going great? And the Yanks are coming, the Yanks are... Yep, I'm affiliate, baby. You missed it. It was a peak stream. I'm gonna be real with you, Jordan. I had a crazy stream. That the stream when I hit affiliate, I had like 10 chatters all chatting at once. I had like an actual like, I had to like stop responding to chat because I just could not keep up. Because they were all having like conversations with each other. It was crazy. I'm sorry. I've been dying. Oh man, my queen, she's dead. It's over. No, it's fine. Yeah, we had a good Smirnoff Saturday yesterday. I was drunk as fuck, and we did some American politics stuff. Because God, I cannot do. Bruh, how do I? Oh, if you want, Jordan, I've got a Discord now, and I've got like a bot on there that tells you when I'm streaming. So if you want, you can join the Discord. It should be like all my links and shit, all my like social stuff. Hey yo, arigato gozaimasu. I will actually start making like actual emotes now because now I'm affiliate. I'm the one emote that I've got in my head is the Chris Lux and the shiny bald head. I'll call it deflection. That's like the one thing I've got on top of my mind. I need deflection. Yeah, like I've just been so busy. But tomorrow I'm gonna see if I can come back home early and I'm gonna try and expand material. Yeah, yeah. I'll see if I can add that. Hopefully I can make an animated emo out of it. Obviously, because I want like the shininess to like keep going. Um, but yeah, Jordan, if you want to just go to my socials links, I think there's my Discord should be there, and you could join it. and then like there's a bot there that basically spams whenever I'm streaming or whatever. His head as a mirror reflects and deflects. All right, we're gonna get into this soon. So quickly zen up. Well, today we're going to start off with the electrification in New Zealand because obviously the national government has talked about giving people like favorable loans to set up solar, but that's retarded because people are not in a condition to take loans right now because the economy is dog shit. So we've got a good piece here, about 20 minutes long, kind of thing. I'm guessing they're going to talk about the loan, how it's going to be applied, and stuff like that. Are we attacking Nash? So right, are we looking into Labour? Yeah, no, we're doing. This is like I think the Nationals policy was the solar panel stuff, the loan for it. But yeah.
We need more power, so how do we electrify? The gas industry has polled. It says Kiwis want a backup LNG terminal. Meanwhile, research from Rewiring Aotearoa shows savings have doubled for every home that puts panels on the roof and EVs in the driveway, even if you have to borrow and pay it all off. Independent economist Cameron Baggery has run his eyes over those numbers.
Also, another thing too, when it comes to like cars and shit, like hybrids are a better technology to use. They're more efficient because EV, like battery technology, has not caught up with the actual tech for EVs. So you're not gonna get the right mileage out of it. And obviously, charging stations are a whole thing, and you got to get energy somehow. Hybrids just seem to be a more long-term solution for the next 50 years, give or take, for like more cleaner cars.
So I asked him, do they add up?
Well, put it this way, I suffered from a phenomenon called spreadsheetitis because these guys and girls did a remarkable job in regard to the information they pulled together. The numbers stack up. You know, I think we had a bit of an inflection point about 2 years ago in regard to solar. And put it this way, I'm about to launch into a renovation, and solar will be part of that renovation. Yeah, we had a tipping point.
I've heard that EVs are a bit scarier to afterlife impact and stuff. Maybe. For me, a big thing with EVs is just it's not economical. At least at this current moment because of battery tech. That's like the big thing. Hybrids, because I've got a hybrid myself. I'm a proud Toyota Aqua owner. Like, even the fuel crisis was like at its peak. And when we were paying like fucking top tier for petrol, I was paying like $100 for a full tank with my Toyota Aqua. EVs are dangerous. Yeah, no, in an accident. It's probably to do with their battery tech because batteries are more like electrical fires are harder to put out, kind of thing. But yeah, for me, it's an economics thing. I believe Regan mentioned literally can't be put out. Yeah, but it's an electrical fire. Electrical fires are basically impossible to put out. You have to just let them burn through. Or dump sand on them.
18 months, 2 years ago.
And what's behind that tipping point? Is it just around the cost or the relative benefits, or is it about pricing in the market sort of in where energy prices are at?
So in simple language, the price of solar, the equipment is coming down. And meanwhile, the price of electricity is going up.
Yep.
You know, so one's heading north, one's heading south. And that tilts the playing field in favour of solar. Yet the price of electricity over time is going to continue to rise. The previous guest, we've got problems with the grid. You know, supply is not matching demand. You know, so we're going to need to be looking at alternatives across New Zealand, and the solar is just one of those solutions that's on the table, and the economics looks pretty good at the moment.
I guess a lot of people sometimes are put off by the upfront cost, and businesses that are in this space have to go to a lot of trouble convincing that the lifetime cost is going to be paid back. But what you're sort of looking at this report and saying it makes that case.
Also, John, have you actually joined a party yet, or are you just like a passive voter?
Yeah, well, there's the numbers that you quoted there in regard to this $3,000 per household on the table, and that includes the upfront cost. The problem for a lot of households is the upfront cost. You know, whether you can fork out the $20,000 to put in place that potential $3,000.
Still just following Te Pāti Māori. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, because as I said, you know, we might have a fight in this, but I feel like Labour has a more pragmatic approach with Māori issues, and also they're a big party. So if you want to actually push Māori issues, I think that the Labour Party is a better party to support. But obviously, the Te Pāti Māori is like if you're of Māori descent, You know, I could see why you would want to Patti Modi because obviously it's something a party made specifically for your issues. I'm leaning towards Labour, of course. They have a bit more impact for people. Yeah, like obviously because Labour has a dual mandate of like governing the people and having to do with Modi issues. Like the current guy, who's a strategist for the Modi electorate and Labour, he's so based. I love him to death. Like he's like a king. I'll see if I can find another one of his interviews. He has some really good moments. Um, but like for example, if you want to join a party, it's super easy. You literally just go to their website and you have to just donate like $1 or $5, and boom, you're a member for life. Well, not for, like annually, obviously. Annually, have to pay like $5 or something. Like I paid 50 because you know I stand my party. But Chapati Modi, obviously, being a strong front for my own culture is more. Yeah, no. As I said, I don't see why you have being part of Chapati Modi is a bad thing. Like, obviously, they speak specifically to Modi issues, but for me, I think having a stronger Labour Party is probably better for society as a whole. On top of Modi, because Labour has a strong history in the Modi electorates, and they have a strong history of Modi issues too. If there was anything crazy interesting, yeah. But yeah, because I'm a member. I'm a member of the Labour Party. This July 19th, I'll be going to a Labour Party meeting for door knockers. So, yeah.
Annual saving that's potentially there. And I guess it's pleasing to see that the national government is behind what's called the rating assistance.
I actually love both. I do believe Labour's probably better due to their desire to support all people. Yes, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I can see why you'd want just Chapati Modi because obviously they speak to Modi issues, but that's their platform. It's just that. Whereas Labour has a dual mandate where they're dealing with, you know, governing the people and Modi at the same time. Good evening, everybody. Hey, Simon. How's it going, brother? Also, Simon, now that I set up my Discord, if you go to my Twitch, you can probably find it there. If you want to just if you want to go into the Discord and there's an NZ politics tab, if you want to just like put in some news articles or things you want me to react to, like you can do that.
Or a complementary aspect to that. So what's the space? You know, when the economics of things start to stack up, you start to see a little bit of movement. And yes, all that momentum has been building across the country over time. It's interesting when you fly into a place such as Christchurch, and on the left-hand side out of the airplane, the fields are literally littered with solar. When you start seeing those sort of things happening around the country,
That's good to know, but I know we don't use this Discord. Oh, yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, if you don't use it, it's one thing. But like, for example, on my Discord, I have like, if you want to set one up, because obviously I got you to set up a Twitch. I have a bot there which basically will like ping you whenever I'm streaming, so you don't have to like guess when I'm streaming. And as I said too, that you could also interact with the community, and there's like stuff you can post there if you want me to react to it, or you want me to see to it, or you want other people to see it. So yeah, but yeah, it's really your choice, obviously.
it's probably a clear indication that people are doing the maths.
Yeah. If you pull back a bit and look at the broader picture, the one that sort of jumped out at me, it's about 80 pages in there that talks about, you know, your typical New Zealand town, if it pursued this model aggressively, would be about $1.3, $1.4 billion off and be creating an extra $1,200 jobs. 12 or 1,300 jobs there. How do they make that case? Can you understand that number for us?
Well, savings generated, the $3,000 per household. You put on the size of a town, whether it be 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, you got 15,000 households. You start to multiply that by $3,000 of savings. Those savings are not going to get banked. That money is not going to disappear. It's going to get reinvested, re-put into the New Zealand economy, with that through spending, with that through investing, and of course that creates multiplier effects in the form of additional growth and additional jobs.
Yeah, and that.
So my application David, hopefully the Discord loads accept my answer. You know what? As a Discord king, not a lord, I'm a king. You've been accepted. I'm also gonna give you the real MF role. Where are you?
As far as you can see, the analysis on that's pretty sound as well.
Yeah, as I said, I suffered from spreadsheetitis going through what they did. They've done a remarkable job.
So hopefully now, Jordan, you're not going to miss any streams, okay?
Number, I haven't seen a forecaster sort of yet when you pull things together where you can have a bit of a crack at odd sort of numbers. But the bigger picture here is that the economics is now in play. And let's not forget that New Zealand's got a vulnerability that's been exposed in the past 3 months in regard to fossil fuels. And if you go back and you have a look at what happened after the 1970s
And
second
we'll
oil
try.
shock, there was a pretty big transitional shift in regard to energy policy around the globe. And I suspect we're going to see a repeat of that both internationally and locally, because once again, we've got a big point of vulnerability in the form of an imported fuel bill and related products to the tune of $10 billion. Now, that's a big check to be writing out every year. And it just highlights our energy dependency, and that's an international dependency. We need to morph our way off that dependency.
Joining me now is Lawrence Carey, Managing Director of Squid Group, who's also organising the EV and Tech Expo in Auckland. Great opportunity for brands to get in front of people. I mean, there is a bewildering number out there. Why do you think, though, people are still kind of on the fence about them?
I think a big part of it is that people don't actually know what's sort of coming and what the tech's sort of about to do. I think with the expo showcasing, one, what brands are coming, what brands are here now, and then also the fact that you can power your homes in the very near future and things like that is something which is really exciting.
A lot of people, it's still things like, oh, the range, I don't know about this. It's people are familiar a little bit with internal combustion, right? We've been through a massive shock.
Also, Simon, this is kind of a question for you, but obviously this government has given out favorable loans to set up solar. In my personal opinion, I think these kind of things, although they relieve the immediate stress of energy costs, I think again, it's a funding issue, but we really need to be setting up more heavy intensity green energy projects like more hydroelectric and more geothermal. I don't know how you feel about the policy, but I think this is a very big quick fix kind of thing. I don't think there's actually a good like dollar use situation. Like every dollar used here, I don't think is as efficiently it could be used if it was put into a more energy intensive project like geothermal or hydro.
In terms of the oil prices and so on, and that's caused people to sort of rethink some of that. But there's still probably, I think, some people might sort of return to form. What sort of choices do you think they might be reconsidering at the moment?
I mean, distance has always been something that people have been like, you're not going to get as far as a petrol vehicle. But I think that technology's moved so far with vehicles driving over 600 kilometres now on one battery charge. That's from Auckland to Wellington, with no refueling or recharging. So there's definitely a huge opportunity there for what the technology is doing and things like that. So, yeah.
I mean, once upon a time, there were just a handful, right? It was like a Nissan made a Leaf. I think, you could almost call a Prius like a hybrid, that kind of stuff. If you had an expo like this 10 years ago, there would have been about 3 cars on the floor. I'm just looking at the list of names here I don't recognise. I've never heard of Farazan. I've never heard of Zeekr. Half of these things sound like breath mints or but there's a huge and bewildering number of brands. How many do you think we're likely to see?
Yeah, so I mean, at the moment we've got 12 brands onboarded. So we've got some of the key major brands already fully locked in. And then over the next month, we'll have the whole suite pretty much coming on board. So it's really exciting to have so many brands coming on. Alongside that, I mean, if we look at the EV market in general, in China, there's, I think, over 80 that are only sold domestically. So there is a wave coming for what EV vehicles and the technology that is there. And to have brands like Geely as our presenting partner, which is arguably one of the biggest EV brands in the world, the EV Expo is definitely going to be showcasing a huge range. So anyone wanting to actually see them, experience them, you can test drive them on site. And there's going to be a range of really awesome talks from not just electric vehicle brands, but also people shaping electrifying New Zealand.
Yeah, the tech around them is quite fascinating too. I mean, obviously the Chinese are leading this whole development of sodium-ion batteries as well as the lithium stuff that's there. I mean, we like to see sort of some chit-chat around that too, because that's a pretty huge technology.
Yeah, so there's some really cool things that I can't say right now, which are going to be at the expo. But there's definitely some really exciting announcements around what you will be able to see and vehicles which will have never been seen in New Zealand before. So the brands that are coming on board and the ones that are already on board have some really exciting things around what you can do now, which is generally what they call V2L, vehicle to load. So you can plug in your hairdryer into your car and blow your hair at the back of of your vehicle.
Not a problem for me, obviously.
No, but then there's the other side of it where you've got vehicle to load, vehicle to grid and things like that. So you're able to actually do both sides of it. So yeah, there's some really exciting changes coming.
Lawrence, what do you drive?
Right now, I drive a Ford Ranger.
This guy.
I will say that I definitely feel like getting an EV in the next year is definitely on the cards. So yeah.
Just you think the possibly rubbing up alongside all of this sort of stuff has pulled you close enough to sort of see that there are some pluses?
100%. To be honest, I work with a lot of different brands and everything with my marketing agency. And after doing so much in this EV space, it's actually a space which I'm really excited about because I can see change and the possibility of what it will do for not just like the brands and things like that, but for everyday households who want to reduce power bills, all that kind of stuff. It's actually really exciting.
Chris, a quarter of people are still unsure there, I suppose. From a business and investment point of view, is there enough public backing to give it momentum for what's a fairly large investment?
Morena, yeah, thank you for that question. I think this is about insurance, and I think 25% of the country, or 29%
This guy's Scottish. Throw him into a black hole.
of the country are unsure whether they need insurance, and the remainder believe that we really do need insurance.
Who's this? Talbot strongly support, somewhat oppose, strongly oppose, unsure. Okay. But there's more support, it seems. Yeah.
Because we don't want a repeat of 2024 when the lights nearly went out.
Yeah. And so this is really, you think about, it's not just about insurance though, it's about which insurance policy you choose and whether, potentially investing in something that, as we've seen, connects us to a sort of a fossil fueled energy market is the right play versus some of the others. Why do you think though that so many people are starting to look at this and see that this is potentially the right play?
I've seen a lot of reports published recently that say that we should look at diesel, or we should look at other alternatives, and we should build this and we should build that. And there's actually been quite a lot of noise around the negatives and potential costs. But this is not a new technology. LNG's been around for a long time, and essentially
The big problem is the import. Like the reason why you build a terminal is because our fuel coming out of the Straits of Hormuz were obviously disrupted, and the problem is, just track the logic, right? The global import markets were unstable. National's plan to fix our energy problem was then to make an import facility. Like it's not like a long-term solution. You just built another thing that's going to cause a problem maybe in the future later. Like, yeah, they aren't. Welcome back, Matthew. It's money fronted, true. As a wise man once said, money rules everything.
all it is, as I said, is building an insurance a policy for a dry risk year. And it's not complicated. Essentially, you're just attaching yourself to a large market in the future. And yes, I know that there is an existential threat of climate change, and people are concerned about locking us into that. But this is an insurance policy that can be affordable, it can be scalable, and you can be pragmatic that it can work.
Does it give the wrong cue though? Does it give the cue to...
I see the LNG gas is quite expensive. I've seen YouTube videos saying that it skyrocketed in Germany when they started doing it after they closed the nuclear power plants to stop using Russia. Yeah, like, again, remember, the whole point is that the LNG thing is not a production facility, okay? It's an import facility. Just by the very nature of that word, it should tell you that, like, our crisis started because of an import crisis. Why this government thought building another import facility would make a fix long-term, I can never give you the answer to that, because just in the basic logic, it fails. Forget the micro economics of it. If anything was actually right, it would be newsworthy, true. But yeah, obviously, like, Germany shutting down nuclear was obviously stupid as hell. Like, they ended up using the French nuclear power after the fact because their energy prices started skyrocketing. Obviously, Britain didn't really have that choice because they weren't part of the EU at the time. So they were kind of fucked, but yeah.
I guess to the users of process energy and so on, that gas has a much longer future, when all the indications from the domestic gas fields are that they're either out of gas or out of reach if you're talking about the Great Southern Basin and other places where there just isn't the infrastructure there in place to tap anything that might be found?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, there are people that are looking for gas currently. People applying for permits off Taranaki, and some things take time to come to market, and you've got onshore gas as well. But these fields are
This is
declining.
white guy talking to this guy making me horny, not caring. He's a Scot, Scots have a very special way of speaking.
The onshore fields, and our offshore fields are declining also. But like I said, this is about an insurance policy. The LNG terminal is primarily focused on making sure that in a dry year, in the middle of winter, when you want to put the lights on, that you can. That's really it. I mean, everything else is nice to have. It's about insurance.
But that insurance policy is going to take time to kick in. I mean, how quickly could something like this be up and running by your estimation? Are we talking it's 2 years away, 3 years away? Because that dry year risk we're expecting much sooner, aren't we?
It depends on the technology deployed. There are offshore floating solutions that can be
Where is God?
In 18 months.
In my booty hole.
And this is something
Not
that was
here.
identified a while back. So theoretically,
And I don't think New Zealand and Australia have the money all pseudo place to dump it. Yeah. Yeah, no, as I said, Simon, like I just don't think this is an actual long-term solution. This is just we should be investing more into our hydro and geothermal, because those kind of projects are not only more energy intensive, like it's a local supply thing, so our reliability is more secure. But hey, who knows? It's like where Waldo, but with nukes.
we could have been up and running by now if we'd have started earlier. But generally speaking, in places like Wilhelmshaven in Germany, when it was a real crisis, when the Ukraine situation arose, they did that in 12 months.
And so it's kind of, to get very, very, very basic, it's the difference between getting a swapper gas bottle in terms of one of these massive ships that we're seeing online, or building our own facility, sort of buying our own barbecue and wiring it into the back deck kind of thing.
Absolutely. And where we're at the moment is people saying, should we go to Bunnings and buy a cheap barbecue? Or should we use an electric barbecue? Or should we use that sort or that sort or that sort? And really what this process seems to be about in the government tender process is we just need to get on with this and have a barbecue and get it
Both
ready.
of them need to be together. True.
Because we can't afford to run the risk of a dry year again.
Yeah, I guess
they don't actually.
It's also about, looking at how long that risk maintains, and whether, if you can build out enough renewables and so on, could we not look at overbuilding the amount of renewables that we have in place, so that there is way more, and then that gives us insurance, it turns things on much more quickly, gives us more confidence to tap the hydro lakes a little more deeply.
That's a good point. And renewable build out has to occur, and it is occurring, and companies are doing a great job in building wind farms, etc., and more solar. Unfortunately, our hydro lakes sometimes aren't full enough in winter, and it's about dispatchable electricity.
The camera and the green screen cost a lot. Yeah, true.
The flick of a switch. And gas is really good at that. You can flick it, switch, and on it comes.
When are we gonna have VTubers doing politics like this? I want my newsrooms to be VTubers. Imagine they're.
And essentially, what you're doing with LNG is you're adding, on a good cold winter's morning, or bad depending on your point of view if you're not Scottish, you want to know that you can switch on a gas supply that's maybe twice the size of Coupe instantly.
Fran O'Sullivan joins me now, having spent the last week at the China Business Summit. Fran, what jumped out for you about the capital question there?
Well, the capital question came up in two ways. Obviously, a very direct pitch by Warren Hu, who's chair of the China Chamber of Commerce, but he's also CEO of Bank of China in New Zealand. But just further back on that, we had a presentation from ANZ's Greater China chief economist, Raymond Yung.
Her hair was her choice. Yeah, I was going to say, like, brother, you got to slime your barber.
China has now become a net exporter of capital. He contrasted the yen rate for international borrowing sort of coming down around 3% versus 1.7% in relation to RMB loans. So there's been this fundamental shift in the last year or so, and a fundamental shift also if you look at what's been happening in energy, for instance, and Raymond pointed out that China...
Brenda's very interesting. I've not seen her interviewed when she was advocating for high taxes and budget spending cuts. She is definitely a deficit hawk, but very interesting. Yeah, what's funny is, like, National Party's austerity platform they came into, that was her actual opinion. Because, like, the only way to actually do austerity is to raise taxes and cut programs. You need to do both of these things. National need one of them, which that just causes economic damage.
China is now effectively a net exporter
Who cares?
of
I
energy
care
via
about you.
solar
I care.
panels. And arguably, you know, the way Saudi Arabia has been at the forefront of oil, there is this massive transition taking place. The other point was capital, and on capital, both were pointing to
We all
the
care.
ability
All of
to
us.
actually access RMB at preferential rates. Now, there's kind of issues like you don't want to go into these Belt and Road development loans, and I don't think there's no way that's what's being talked about.
Oh,
What's
Seems
being
like
the
you.
first
I
thing
care a
thought
lot.
about was
That's why I'm doing this.
accessing on commercial terms, you know, deals that are out there today. It's not, you know.
there's no sort of strings attached around who you have to employ to do the contracting and where the ownership lies.
There's
Yeah.
none of that. There's none of that. It's just saying, hello, why aren't we accessing this particular market? Arguably, and I've been banging on about it for 20 odd years, ever since the FTA was negotiated, and the previous Commerce Minister Bo July, who has, fallen from grace big time and now languishes in jail. But
I'm wondering if she's very pro-China now with their money. Yeah, it is scary, like how much China influences like Australasian politics, like Indonesia, Australia, and New Zealand. Like it is some crazy shit, dog. Like I think, Simon, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it like at some point like Southern Australia's water supply was like 90% controlled by like Chinese like interests or something like that? It was like a massive scandal or something because obviously like Southern Australia has already water issues to begin with, and for an entity owning their water supply is it's a bit cringe.
he back in the day, and they had talks with Helen Clark about why not bring in teams to do some major
You need statistics to hate people. True, statistically hating people is the superior form of hating people. I can't confirm, but it sounds like something that would have happened. Fun, yeah. No, because I remember reading that it was like a massive like controversy in Australia at the time. I don't know if it was the entire water supply of Australia, but I know definitely South Australia was affected. Hola, amigo. Hey, Ganju, what's up? How's it going, brother?
here and then send them home again. And that, in other words, was accessing cheap Chinese labour. Now, that didn't go down too well, and it never happened here. But, you know, there is
You could not be a part of it. No, I want to be a part of it.
arguably a case for making sure that we actually
I
do
am hard.
get stuff done on time.
By the way, you're Spanish, right? No, I'm not Spanish. I'm not anti-China, but I'm cautious about them. I do support our free trade. Yeah, it's the same way you should be skeptic of the United States. It's not that like these are evil entities, but it's like you have to be aware about what's happening. Like for example, Chinese investment and American investment, that's like fucking whatever, but like you have to be very careful about, you know, what happens. No, I'm not Spaniard, Ganju. I know my my sexy light skin can make me look like a Spaniard, but I'm not a Spaniard.
And if you look at the explosion and
You want
the
one thing to be
CRL,
right.
for instance,
I do want one thing to be right.
heads
I
would
don't.
arguably
There is
roll
only one thing that's right, and you know who that is? It's me. I'm right. You're wrong.
somewhere else if that was the
We're
case.
different.
Beijing got involved. What is the major kind of handbrake on all of this then? Is it just a sort
Geopolitics.
of
Geopolitics
it's a
in the
reluctance to be
background.
tied to there, yeah?
Yeah, it's that, but it's been quite interesting. Other Western economies, Singapore, Canada, and others are accessing this capital pool. And, you know, I mean, if you really took it back a bit and were a little bit pointed about it, I mean, the Japanese were carving up the Pacific 80 odd years ago and then subsequently turned into being a major and respected trading partner. Things are evolutionary, and
Yeah, that's
I'm
true.
not making the case for wholesale investment, but
Yesterday you were wrong on your view of how the First Amendment works. No, I was never wrong. I was right the whole time. Nah, I'm always right. You can't prove it. You can't prove it.
am just saying that what came through at the summit was this opportunity to also have that in the mix.
There's that. And I guess you're seeing a shift, aren't you? There was some stuff out of the Lowy Institute in Australia last week
I don't claim to be right. Yeah, you don't claim to be. I am. I'm always right.
that indicated that in Australia, broad sentiment is more likely to see China as a positive partner rather than a rival or a
straight to okay, dude.
threat. And perhaps they're a little bit down on the US.
Not a
Well,
cry
it's
if you
quite
don't, you
interesting,
how.
isn't it? And it came up at the summit here as well with James Lawrenson, who's a professor in Sydney at the Australia-China Relations Institute, and he was pointing out that the most coercive behaviour in recent times has actually come from the US. So That's actually helped to change things around a bit about the perception, and we saw that also in the recent Asia-New Zealand Perceptions Index. Again, the two countries have basically swapped in favourability.
I mean, is someone looking at accessing Chinese capital versus, I don't know, going to Japan or the US or Europe, going to find a different kind of a conversation?
Would you crack that torta? Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah. I'm a torta pounder.
Has to happen to do that, or is it all just money?
Well, it's not entirely clear, and I haven't had a chance to call up the Reserve Bank. Warren Hu did indicate that there should need to be some regulatory changes to bed it in. But from what I can see, there's probably nothing to stop issuing bonds denominated in RMB at this stage.
And that's how we go electric, a running theme this week on Herald Now Business. We're live weekdays from 6:30 a.m. on YouTube 3 Now and of course here on nzherald.co.nz. Thanks to our partners 2 Degrees Business, Mā Te Wā.
That's pretty freaking epic, bro. Pretty freaking epic, dude. Oh my god, wait, is this Helen Clark? My queen.
What does power look like up close?
Does someone in your country call you El Loco for your affinity towards torta? No. Because over here in New Zealand, we love cracking tortas.
And personal. As a press gallery journalist during the turbulent 80s and 90s, Chief Press Secretary to Helen Clark and Chief of Staff to Jacinda Ardern, Mike Munro had a better view than most. He's written a new book detailing his decades working around the beehive, and I started by asking him what he found so seductive about frontline politics.
Sorry from New Zealand, brother, I've said this open. I've been very open about this.
Well, I'm a sports fan. And in many ways, it's a bit like sporting combat politics. It's a great game, a great competition. And
he's only interviewing the advisor to Helen Clark because oh, got you. All right, I forgot about it. I thought you were a Canadian Spaniard. Yeah, true.
I think it's that sort of to and fro that I've really enjoyed about politics. Some of the people I worked with around Parliament used to dread election time and election year, but I actually loved it. I felt like the contest was at its sort of peak and its height during the election season, and it was all about winners and losers, and you spend 3 years working in those political minded jobs, getting ready for the election season, and when it rolled around, I sort of revelled in it.
You revelled in the contest, so not necessarily driven by policies and that sort of thing. You were actually driven by the raw contest.
Yeah, it's more the human drama of it. I was never a policy wonk, and sure, you get involved in policy conversations and whatever, but yeah, I enjoyed the human drama of politics.
Does New Zealand Army recruit young guys for the army? Well, yeah, if you're young, you can get recruited in the army, but we're not like Russia. We don't just find any young person and throw them in the army. It's a voluntary service. And
watching stars arise, watching people like Winston Peters somehow enduring for 40-something years, others crashing and burning quite
cockroach
early.
Himself.
So yeah, it's got a great element of human drama about it, which I found quite compelling.
You've spent more than a decade in the press gallery as a journalist, and you were there during a remarkable period in New Zealand political history, there for Muldoon, for the Longi government as well. How do you compare...
I know, but have you ever been promoted in your university to go to military? No. I know some military guys go to university and stuff, but like that. But no, I haven't personally.
The relationship between journalists and politicians in, say, the Muldoon era with that of today.
It's always been edgy.
Our military stuff usually actually happens in high school, unless it's the Air Force. I think with the Air Force they go to the unis more often because you need a higher IQ. Thank you, Norman Kirk, for abolishing military conscription. True, Simon. You know why? Because we are Norman Kirk. Oh shit, wasn't I? Well, the soundboard is not connected. Wait. There we go. Soundboard is back.
There's always been a tension in that relationship.
And
I think that tension is quite important for the media to do their job and for politicians to do their job. I mean, the interests of the two are very, very different. And that's why there's a certain edginess in that relationship. I guess today it's just it's different today because of the technologies at our disposal, and also I think journalists now, you know, there's a lot more commentary, there's a lot more opinionated journalism now than there might have been 40 years ago. You know, when I was first working in the press gallery in the 1980s, we were there just to report the facts, to report the stories and the issues. But I think, you know, today there's a lot more pressure on journalists to analyse what's happening in front of them, and to give their views and opinions on that. And of course that adds even more edginess to that relationship between the media and politicians.
Do you sense that the power dynamic has shifted in any way?
No, I don't think so.
Do you have any Hispanic heritage? I have zero Hispanic heritage. Zero.
You know, the journalists have always, you know, taken the line that they're there to hold the politicians to account, that they're the guardians of the democracy. Well, that's always been the case. But I don't think it's given them any more power as such. No, I think you know, despite all the technology changes, that power distribution between the two is pretty much, you know, where it was 40 years ago.
Many journos swear black and blue that they will never cross the divide and become a political staffer or a press secretary, and then many of them...
So why you look like a whitey Spaniard? Because I'm a light-skinned bad boy. No, I have a interesting ethnic disposition. Like, I'll give you 3 tries, Ganju. Try to guess what my nationality is. Or like my ethnicity, specifically, because my nationality is Kiwi. But I try to guess my ethnicity. I'll give you 3 tries.
Cross the divide and become...
You're not English, clearly. I might be. You don't know.
You were among them.
Yeah, indeed.
You became Helen Clark's press secretary in 1996. Why?
Great.
Are you sure? No, Jordan, you're not allowed in this conversation because you already know.
Well, I think...
Maybe you're... Netherlandic? Nope. I'm not a Dutch. Not Dutch.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I've been in the gallery
That's
for
one.
10 years, right?
You got 2 more
I
tries.
I wanted to change.
Some kind of Indian ethnicity, maybe Fiji Indian. Okay, maybe. We'll give Ganju another 2 more tries, and then I'll say what it is. Maybe you're Kiwi American? Nope. 1 more try, Ganju, and then I'll tell you what it is. Okay, then you're from the Brit Islands. Nope, not a Brit Bonga. You know what? I'm not gonna. Or from FC Thailand. I'm not gonna tell you what ethnicity I am. I'll use my not my mother tongue. My mother tongue is English, but I'll use my language that my parents do because they came from this country. Let me some time. I gotta follow it. मेरा नाम आदित्य सकलानी है. मैं महाभारत से हूँ. मेरा बाश उत्तराखंड है. उत्तराखंड है मेरी स्टेट. मैं वो नॉर्थ वेस्ट में हूँ. मेरा स्किन गोरा है बिकॉज मैं भारत से हूँ, नॉर्थ से. You're Middle Eastern. Close, but no. Funny enough, one of my babas thought I was Iraqi. I told him, brother, no. Inshallah, I wish I was, but I'm not. Simon was he basically said the right thing. Kutrapali, okay. Yeah, Simon was right. I'm Indian, from the north of India, specifically like the far north. Like my the state which my parents came from basically borders Nepal. It's why I'm a light-skinned bad boy.
And I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do next from a journalistic point of view. And I had a year's paternity leave after leaving the press gallery.
Ooh, so you're Asian Indian. Not Asian. I'm not white, like at all. I have no white mixed in. Like Indians, naturally, if you go more north, Indians naturally are just white. Because we're the true Aryans.
And I think coming out of that, I was suddenly open to other ideas and suggestions, and I got an approach to go in and work for Helen Clark, and I really didn't think about it that much. It was.
Oh, so you're like Freddie Mercury? Yeah, technically. I think Freddie Mercury's parents came from Gujarat. Gujarat is a little more south to us, but yeah, basically.
It was something different to do.
I'm Freddie Mercury, greatest band.
I wasn't going to go back to Parliament as a journalist. I wasn't sure what I'd be doing next as a journalist outside the press gallery.
So his parents are from East Africa, but like their roots are from Gujarat, because a lot of a lot of West Indians, because there were a lot of trading communities, a lot of them settled in East Africa. So yeah, his parents were from Zanzibar, but like their roots come from Gujarat. I'm pretty sure. You look kind of like his relative. Yeah, I'm rocking the mustache and everything. All I gotta do now is be homosexual, and I'm basically Freddie Mercury. And I think they were Zoroastrians. Yeah. A lot of the Zoroastrian communities live in the west of India, specifically like Gujarat region. In I think Surat is like the main place where you'll find a lot of them.
And yeah, I sort of fell into it. It was almost accidental, actually.
It wasn't clear that Helen Clark was going to be a party leader for very long.
No.
Your mustache is part of your loyalty to the English. No, it's not. The English wish they have beautiful mustaches like this. Okay, they wish every day. But they've got blonde hair, so it's transparent as fuck, and it's not as thick and luscious as mine.
Right, exactly.
At that point, I mean, in those early days of the Labour
The
leadership,
sash makes him yeah, sure, Jordan.
she wasn't particularly popular with voters or her fellow caucus members. What did you see in her at that point? Did you think she'd last?
Well, it was an open question as to whether she'd last. But I'd watched Helen Clark in action for some years as a journalist, and I could see she was a very talented politician. And I could see she was a driven politician who was obviously had her eyes on the top job. So she was an interesting proposition from that point of view. But yes, I agree that when I started there, whether she'd survive or not was very much an open question. And I recall a lot of my old journalist mates saying to me, Munro, what are you doing? Do you know that this woman is possibly going to be out on her air fairly shortly? And that was all very true. But yeah, I hung in there despite those initial doubts, and I'm pleased I did. It turned out to be a really absorbing and rewarding role.
So having crossed the divide from journalism into media advising, what did you learn about each of those professions? So what did you better understand about the political side of things, and what did you better understand about journalism once you'd seen both sides?
Yeah, well, on the political side, you get insights very early into just the feverish nature of some.
Are people of your ethnicity usually Buddhist? Well, Buddhism is native to India, but the irony is that the Chinese stole that from us. So usually it's a lot of Chinese and Southeast Asians who are Buddhist. No, we're Hindu. We're directly Hindu. My mom's more religious than I am. So I don't really give a fuck about like the religious stuff. But yeah, Hinduism is very big in India. Like you'll mostly find people in India being Hindu. What the fuck's my shit? But you'll find some Buddhists though. As I said, Buddhism's like native to India, so there'll be some Buddhists. But yeah, mostly Hindus and some Muslims.
The debates going on within the parties, and also, the efforts they have to make.
Hinduism is New Zealand's second biggest religion. Yes, we're taking over. This is why I'm a Brian Tamaki supporter. We need to bring back Christianity, Christian nationalism.
Politicians to get themselves on the same page on issues. There's some pretty intense debates happen in the caucus room and within the party about the issues they're dealing with.
Chinese are Buddhist whatsoever. The Buddhism has never been... No, because like the Chinese, the Buddhism they follow isn't actually like real Buddhism, like what came out of India. But like, if you want to find Buddhists, you'll mostly find them in China and Southeast Asia.
But not so much the issues, but the strategies they should be following as they move towards the election. So yeah, it was quite an eye-opener seeing the extent of the division.
Southeast Asia true, but not China. It depends. Like as I said, like the Chinese, they've like transformed Buddhism. They like mixed Confucianism and Buddhism to like one thing, and like it's like a hybrid kind of thing going on. The funny thing is that the Indian church across the road from me, Is it are you sure? Because Sikhism is different than Hinduism. So is it like a Gurudwara? Is it like one of those temples with like the golden things on the top, Simon? Because that's a Sikh thing, not a Hindu thing. Mongolian have Buddhist. Yeah. Tibet if they're independent, true. We gotta free our occupied brothers. Real Buddhism, yeah. Southeast Asia, like even then, their Buddhism is also like not original Buddhism, but like they kept to the core tenets a lot.
And just the intensity of the internal debates. And also to see
Not China.
some of the
no, there are Buddhist communities. Like, if you go to like southeast and southwest China, you'll see a lot of Buddhist communities. But yeah, mostly in the north, it's Confucian.
As a journalist, to see them in the caucus room and see them close up, working with their colleagues, trying to arrive at sort of common positions on issues, yeah, that was quite revealing. And as far as the media was concerned, I think that it strikes you quite quickly when you go into a role like that, how little they know about the background to some issues, and how much they just rely on sort of hearsay or one conversation with one politician, and that's just that's just because sometimes politicians don't want to.
Sikhism temple in Rotorua, former bowling alley, but one of them, from me, it's an evangelical church of Indian. Oh wait, is it like an evangelical Christian church? That's an Indian church. It makes sense. There's a lot of they're called Mallus, as South Indians who were converted into Christianity because they wanted to break from the caste system, and they also kind of got forced into it because the Brits did a lot of interesting thing with their missions in South India. The Southeast Asia is Buddhist only because of the Greeks. Really? No, it was just a trading thing from what I understand. Like Indonesia before the Muslims started being big traders there. They were very much Hindu and Buddhist. Yeah. Okay. The Greeks.
Talk to journalists about issues, and so the journalists have to rely on that single source, or rely on their on them just sort of drawing.
That's true. The Greek missionaries. Oh, okay. Greek missionaries. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes more sense. I was gonna say like I don't know why the Greeks would be influential, but if it's just Greek missionaries, that would make more sense. Okay. I really like the Sikhs in Rotorua. They are really nice and they have great parades daily. Just pointing fingers. Brian Tamagi's, yeah. Brian Tamagi's just a fucking scum. But like, I mean this. I never actually looked into the Destiny Church stuff. When I went to that interview on Radio Tirana, and one of the topics was the Destiny Church. When I started researching, I was like, brother, this shit is fucked. Like, this guy needs to be convicted because he actively abuses free speech to like push hatred. Historical evidence is clear for this one. Before they weren't so much into Buddhism. Yeah, it was mostly a trade thing from what I understand because they were Hindu a lot, and the Buddhist things came through the trade routes too.
Conclusions.
Brian Tamaki originates from Rotorua's first. Oh my god, kill me, dude. Yeah, man. Simon, how much does it suck that like one of the most controversial figures in New Zealand comes from your region?
So, yeah, it was that extent to which journalists, didn't have the full picture. But I realised quite quickly that was going to be part of my job too, of course, to try and make sure that journalists were more aware of the background to issues before they sat down and wrote their columns and their news stories.
So long as the background suited your interests.
Oh,
right?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
He's originally from Tokoroa, but the first church was set up in Rotorua, and the first church was originally a cinema. Okay, got you. That makes more sense.
Absolutely, but sometimes, sometimes I found myself maybe being a bit too helpful to journalists off the record about issues, but it's often because I wanted them to have a better understanding of the context of an issue that was, enveloping the Labour Party at the time.
Yeah.
But so that did sort of strike me that I'd sat in the press gallery for 10 years without much of an idea about how things really happened behind that caucus room door.
And you don't really know what you don't know.
Yes, exactly.
Until you are in a position.
Until you go in there and join the camp.
Yeah. There must have been days when you thought, my goodness, if I knew this was
well, that's right.
this was happening.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes you'd see a report of an issue in the newspaper or on the television or whatever, and you'd sort of think they don't really know half of it. Yeah. But there's a reason for that, because the half of it they don't know would be very damaging to the interests of the people you're working for.
So you've written about Helen Clark's keen intellect and her extraordinary work ethic. You had a front row seat during her prime ministership. So what would surprise people about Helen Clark?
You know, I think most of what we know about Helen Clark was sort of out there. Helen was remarkably open in her interviews and in her interactions.
I do recommend the Brian Tamaki interview. He looked. Yeah, no, I'm gonna watch this next because I remember. I'm so sorry I asked this of you, Simon, again. But can you link it again? Because I think I lost it. But yeah, I actually do want to watch it. Because yeah, that fucker, bro, holy.
With the media. I don't think there's too
They really took the original Buddhism teachings because they were in North India and sailed. Oh, you're talking about the Bactrians, like the North Greek kingdom that was kind of set up when Alexander the Great came in. Okay, that makes more sense.
We didn't know about her by the end of her reign. There was a bit of a public perception about Helen being a cold person and and not a particularly, maybe she didn't have a particularly strong sense of humour or whatever, but that was very untrue. Helen had a wicked sense of humour, and she could sit down and have a good gossip about politics as much as the rest of us. And in fact, she loved that. She loved sitting around sort of chewing the fat about issues and personalities and what was going on at Parliament at the time. People often said to me, after I'd met Helen Clark, they'd say, "Oh, she's so much better in person. She's such a warmer person."
If it wasn't for them, then North India would just fell, and nobody's gonna know the ancient Buddhism as it was then. Yeah, because I know, like, what's funny is I think the local. Oh, thank you, Simon, for the link. I know the local. What's funny is that Afghanistan, as it is now, the Afghans are actually majority Buddhist. It wasn't until the Muslims came in through the Safavids. Not the Safavids. What was the Iranian dynasty that was first established? I forget. But yeah, it's just funny the history of like Islam in the region. There's a lot of Buddhist like historical sites that have been blown to shreds by the Taliban and shit.
And I guess that's just the nature of of the media presentation of politicians. When they sit in the chair like I am now, they have to sort of, watch their words, be careful what they're saying, project this image of common sense, etc. But sometimes you need to see politicians away from the camera and away from the microphone to really learn what they're like. And
some kind of Persian dynasty took over Afghanistan, but the Afghans afford everyone who has turned up to their region, even if they became part of the religion, being Buddhist and then turn into Muslim majority country must be a massive. Yeah, it definitely was a massive change. But yeah, Simon, to your point, remember, like, there's nothing special about the Afghan people. It's just a very simple thing. Mountainous terrain is just very hard to occupy. So if you have no local support in the region, you're not fucking keeping that territory. It's literally that simple. It's the same reason why, like, no matter how much people tried, like, the Balkans were always hard to like unify or occupy. Like, even when the Ottomans took it over, they had to like set up local governorates and beyliks to try and even control the region. And even then, there was rebellions. It's the reason why the Ottomans gave a lot of economic incentive to Bosnian landlords to become Muslim and convert, because they wanted to like slowly bring them into the fold. And same thing with the Caucasus. Like, look at any mountainous region in history. Like, there's so many microstates and different religions and cultures. They're the most like diverse areas, but have the most conflict at the same time. It's a geography thing.
And Helen was a person who could be very funny, very witty, and quite edgy in some of her observations about life and people.
E.g.?
Yeah, well, just her views on other politicians, either in her camp or on the other side of the aisle.
Yeah.
And
basically, the Bosnians, the ones who avoided a pain. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, the Ottomans gave the Bosnians a lot of economic incentives to basically be part of the empire. It's the reason why they were able to hold on to Bosnia for a while. Yeah. Have you ever learned about Buddhism from your region? Relatively, I know about Gautama, like the guy who originally founded it and stuff like that. From what I understand, he was actually a Nepali. If you were to establish a nationality for him. But I'm not very religious, so I don't really care. But I know about the general history and the trade relations and like what it actually did to history. And that kind of heretical Christian beforehand from my limited reading about the history of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that is a side of her. She's got to be very she has to be very careful, I suppose, about not sort of giving too many glimpses into that sort of side of her makeup.
It's my sense, at least from the journalism side of things, that there are some politicians who generally don't get themselves into too much trouble in interviews, and others who I can only imagine being a media advisor for can be a bit of a stressful experience at times. What was it like being Helen's advisor? Would she take your advice? Did she need it?
She didn't need a lot, actually. She was very controlled. Helen was very controlled in her sort of, delivery and.
You know, sir, that the Gautama probably have killed or seriously hurt someone in the first 20 years. Yeah, well, to be fair, because the whole idea was he reached nirvana. It wasn't that he was born a saint. It's like, you know, with Jesus, like, the whole story is like he was born awesome sauce. But with Gautama, it was like he just reached enlightenment. Like, he had like a really bloody past, and he was like, you know what? That's gay and stupid. I want to find peace. So, yeah, like, it wouldn't really hurt the religion to know that the founder of Buddhism was evil before he, you know, made Buddhism, because that whole point of Buddhism is like redemption and nirvana.
In front of the media. She prepared incredibly well for interviews and for any interaction.
All right, give me a second, Chuds. I'm going to go quickly get a coffee. I'll be back in 2 minutes. All right, back. It's because he was a prince of an aristocracy warrior tribe. He wasn't even prince, as many thought. It just happened that his father were in charge of the kingdom, but Siddhartha was not guaranteed to become the next king. The Kinda was elected by... Yeah, no, like, India has a very entrenched feudal history. That makes sense.
You know, she was always ringing up the office when she was in Auckland and I was in Wellington. She was always ringing the office to get transcripts, you know, to get clippings of certain stories before she did an interview. So yeah, preparation was a big thing for her, and she did listen to advice. She did listen to advice. She advice on everything really. She wanted to know, like television interviews. She just didn't want to make sure she was prepared from a content point of view. She wanted to know things about, you know, what colour should I wear? What's the studio like today? What are the colours of the studio? So yeah, she thought about all the dimensions of her interactions with the media. So yeah, controlled and very, very well prepared. They were the hallmarks of her media stuff.
Yeah, there are some pretty interesting and entertaining depictions of political strategists and comms advisors. I'm sure you're pretty familiar with.
The Buddha being 29-year-old hardened veteran has probably killed someone. And so, you know, he definitely, as I said, like, it wouldn't really change people's opinions of Buddhism, though, because again, the whole point of Buddhism was like redemption and like understanding enlightenment and all that stuff. So yeah, so even if he did, that doesn't really matter.
Some of them, I mean, you know, there are some depictions in which they're sort of seen as pulling strings or being kind of dastardly in some of their political tricks. What did you see your role as being?
I think I was pretty straight up in my dealings with the media, and I think I had a reputation for being so during the time I was with Helen Clark. You are the eyes and ears of the politician. You know, you have to make sure you're keeping them well informed about all the issues that might impact on them, that they might have to respond to or whatever. And that's the sort of part of the job that I took very seriously, that the Prime Minister is a very busy person. You know, from dawn to dusk, they're flat out in meetings, chairing caucus, running cabinet, doing media activity, and they can't see what's going on around them in terms of other media activity that might impact on them. And so I saw that, you know, as a very important part of my role, to be her sort of eyes and ears, so that she was ready for anything. And Helen, you know, would often ring me just for a chat at the weekend about issues coming up the following week, and want to know, you know, what the media might be looking at the next week, what are the issues we're likely to be facing. She was always thinking about the next thing that she needed to be ready for, and I think that, you know, that's where I used to offer her a lot of advice, and I had to spend a lot of time sort of in discussion with her.
Did you see yourself as a spin doctor? Did you see yourself as always trying to control the message?
Yeah, to the extent that you can. Yeah, I mean, it is a legitimate part of the role.
How much can you? How much can you control the message?
Well, I mean, I think the thing with spin doctoring is that, you know, obviously you're trying to present things in the best possible light, and sometimes, you know, things are going so badly, or an issue is going off the rails so comprehensively that's almost impossible to do that. So you don't try and sort of, you know, gild it too much. So I try to be realistic about that. Sometimes it just wasn't worth. Things were going so terribly wrong that it wasn't worth spending a lot of energy trying to sort of change the media perception of it. You sort of pick your battles, and I think that's a really important part of the role, that you pick the scraps you can have with them.
What happened to our media, bro? This is good, because like you should be partisan to some degree, because you have to, like, when you're doing media stuff, you're actually not there to give just the facts like in a monotone thing. You want to say also, hey, by the way, we're a better party to do this. And like, for example, if you're going to the media and you're talking about something, you in your head could know something is objectively wrong about the policy, but that's a discussion to have indoors, where you could actually have a healthy discussion about it, not putting it out forth to be criticized by the public, and especially by malicious actors. This is based.
Media, because some of them you're just going to be in a hopeless situation right from the start.
You covered Winston Peters as a reporter, then as Jacinda Ardern's Chief of Staff. You found yourself managing Labour's side of coalition arrangements with New Zealand First. What advice would you give the current PM about managing the relationship with Winston Peters?
Yeah, that's a tough one, isn't it? I think that Winston, he's such a sort of singular person. He's got a lot worse in terms of his cantankerousness and
infinitely more worse.
Yeah, yeah. But Winston used to be sort of quite entertaining once upon a time. It was sort of, you know, his contrariness was quite entertaining, but it's just got a bit more of an edge to it these days. But look, I think with Winston, you just have to spend a lot of time with him, sort of getting to know him. He's quite a standoffish person in many ways when it comes to those sort of personal relationships in politics. And I remember with Jacinda Ardern, you know, Jacinda didn't know him well either, even though she'd been in Parliament for some terms, you know, 3 terms at least, by the time she became Prime Minister. And we actually organised a couple of, you know, dinners, just Winston and Jacinda, where they sat down and chewed the fat. And I think they were quite valuable in terms of him getting to know her a lot better, but also Jacinda getting to know Winston. And I just think you've got to spend a lot of time with him, so you understand his point of view. And even after spending a lot of time with him, you might not
Will they even go for the milk for the next 7 years when his son was born based king?
fully understand his point of view, but it just might help build a
Became a good father,
rapport.
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, because
whether
remember, with those whole stories, they had a journey. So it would make sense, you know.
the current Prime Minister has done a lot of that. The chiefs of staff have
only
a
when his
role
son
to
was
play as
7,
well.
yeah.
I talk about this in the book, of course. The chiefs of staff have to get to know one another and be able to explain what their bosses are thinking on the relevant issues. But yeah, I just think it's relationship building. I know it sounds pretty straightforward, but politicians don't always have a lot of time to just spend time getting to know their colleagues and their counterparts, for that matter.
But it's an investment.
Well, it is, yeah. It's an investment of time which will pay dividends in the long run.
So you can leave your children and be a good guy, apparently. Well, yeah, it's all because like the whole point of Buddhism is like supposedly like you just fuck off from the world, you leave all material things behind, which includes your children, and like you're just there to reach nirvana. It sucks, but that's just kind of how the philosophy is. Like the pure philosophy of Buddhism is to leave all material things behind.
Run.
How do you think about New Zealand First's positioning for this election?
Well, they sort of know their audience very well.
A little too well.
Their popular style of politics is,
I'm glad somebody in the media is talking about populism because holy AIDS, we're no longer on the left and right, okay?
there's always going to have a bit of a following. And right now, it's maybe more than a bit of a following. They're looking at they're going to be a 10 or 12% party. You'd have to say that he's almost certainly going to be in the box seat again in terms of the kingmaker role, although Opportunity Party might have something to say about that. And the rise of that party is a fascinating dynamic in politics right now. And the potential for Opportunity to take over or take off Peters that role of kingmaker at the next election is there. But I mean, New Zealand First are sitting pretty at present because as the National Party vote is softening, most of that vote is fleeing to New Zealand First. So they are the beneficiaries of the declining National Party vote. So
that's true too.
Come election time, they're going to be in a fairly strong position, you'd have to say at this point.
I've got my journalistic hat on here, going through your book with a fine-tooth comb, and there was a curious line about staffing choices that I want to read to you regarding Leroy Taylor, who is Jacinda Ardern's private secretary. Quote, Jacinda and Leroy had known each other for many years as friends and flatmates, and Jacinda had earmarked Leroy for her official gatekeeper role should she ever win Labour's leadership. And the popular understanding of Jacinda Ardern's rise is that she only became the leader extremely reluctantly, but that passage would suggest otherwise.
Well, I think the earmarking sort of took place quite late in the piece. I don't think, Jacinda would have consciously thought about that when she first knew Leroy. But I think, maybe I could have made that clearer. But when Jacinda was being talked about in 2017 as she was deputy leader by then, and when she became the sort of heir apparent, I think she would have been earmarking Leroy at that point as somebody she wanted in her team.
So I shouldn't read too much into it?
No, I don't think
something
so.
she'd been planning for
because
years?
I think when Jacinda says that she'd never thought about the leadership before 2017, I believe her. She hadn't. It was only when, after Aniak King went and Jacinda became the deputy, and all of a sudden there was
Do you think with politics, running for leadership as well as you can be seen as too eager to take the job, people would... Yeah. Like, Simon, since you're a Kiwi, you understand, it's the whole thing of tall poppy syndrome. People don't like people with ambition in this country. This is why the Americans take a fat W here on us as Kiwis. We hate people with ambition in this country.
Speculation was beginning that,
you have to kind of have the humble... Yeah.
The next leader of the Labour Party, surely, Jacinda Ardern. I think at that point she would have started having thoughts about who she'd like in her camp if and when that day came.
You're quiet? Also, hey Aliana, how's it going? I think in some other parts of the world to do similar. Yeah, maybe. Is my mic quiet, or should I boost myself up? Hi's good. I'm browsing holsters on the internet. What about you? I'm doing my local politics because I'm an autistic chud. I'm gonna turn up my mic a little bit. There you go. I think that's better. Yep. Is that good, or do you want me to do it more? You're very quiet on my YouTube. Okay, cool. All right. All right, we're doing a mic test. Is this good? Perfect. Sweet. Also, Aliana, I finally set up a Discord for the community because now I've been getting consistent people coming in. It should be linked on my Twitch, wherever like the bio, the social stuff is. Yeah. So if you want to set an application in, also Aliana, there's a big problem right now. You are the queen of this chat. You might be dethroned. I found another Floyd. Lou, she's already part of the community. She's joined the Discord, and she's from Monaco. And she's got the same politics autism as I do. So you got to fight hard, Aliana. You're gonna lose your throne soon.
So you said that
I can't beat in Monaco.
Time as Prime Minister, the New Zealand public came to know Helen Clark really well. You feel the same way about the public's relationship with Jacinda Ardern? Is there anything about Jacinda Ardern that would surprise people from your experience as the Chief of Staff?
You guys might get along because she has some really, self-admittedly, she has very bad French jokes. So if you know French as a Canadian, you'll probably be able to tap in and you guys will have a fun time together. I can't even point out Monaco. But see, that's where me and her have a lot of similarities. No one can point New Zealand on a map either.
No, I think when Jacinda talks about herself having imposter syndrome, that was very real. She really, you know, taking on that job was a massive step for her, and it took quite a sort of toll on her in many ways, actually. And then
so like, yeah, if you want to join the Discord, because I've got a bot that basically will, so you no longer have to guess when I'm streaming. There's a bot there which will like just tell you if I'm streaming, and also you can just hang out and shit, obviously.
You know, when she became Prime Minister, to learn that she's pregnant as well, about to become a mother, that was a hell of a time for her. But yeah, in terms of what the public would be surprised about, yeah, I think it's the extent to which she is, you know, she is quite a thin-skinned politician, and she's a very, very sensitive person. I mean, we got a sense of that in her communications, but it really was quite, you know, an accentuated thing about her makeup.
And how would that present? What impact would that have?
Well, I think we saw it during her communications around after the mosque shootings in Christchurch, and certainly during the COVID pandemic as well. I think we saw that sort of sensitivity, and we saw that sort of empathy that she is, you know, famous for. That came through in her communications.
Often those are celebrated qualities, but,
yeah.
But I mean, is there a downside to that at a personal level as well? If you're putting yourself, if you're in a role where you're the Prime Minister, a role of that prominence that attracts naturally a high degree of scrutiny, I can imagine. I'm
going to get a bandolier holster, by the way. I figured it would be most convenient for throwing under a coat in a shed for laughing at my house, not carrying legally. Based. My queen's going to become a cowboy. Or a cowgirl, sorry.
And there are some downsides as well.
Yeah, but the thing about Jacinda is that, you know, she was tougher than people gave her credit for. You know, I sat in the room with her and saw her making decisions about sacking ministers. I'm thinking here of
yes, cowgirl, yeehaw,
and Claire Curran, and she could be quite hard-nosed and hard-headed, but you know, but in doing so and making those decisions and having those conversations with ministers who she's about to sort of send down the road, she was still able to do it in a human way, but boy, she made herself
well, there's named a son Shackles because he touched her.
Very plain too, and she was, you know, she had to have steel to make those sorts of decisions, and she certainly had it. She was quite remarkable in that regard, actually.
Why do you think portions of public opinion turned so strongly against Jacinda Ardern?
Well.
It was COVID. It was literally just COVID. Like, no politician in the West survived COVID. Everybody lost, even if they were incumbent. COVID, like, people heavily underestimate the political implications of what COVID did, bro. Because people are fucking stupid. They don't understand politics or policies. They just live in the current moment. So they saw economy bad, so they sacked Jacinda. That was it.
Political historians are going to wrestle with that one for years. There's a big dollop of misogyny involved in that, obviously. I think that we saw an awful lot of Jacinda during the pandemic, sort of giving us instructions, for want of a better word, about how we had to sort of live our lives in terms of closed borders, vaccinations, etc. And that was a positive for a long time. That was people saw that as a good thing, and that the
Have you known that Buddha was chill like that? Yeah, he's chill as fuck. A kid? Nah, I want to reach enlightenment.
government would
That's
be very
based.
clear about
He's
the
dedicated
rights
to his
and
craft.
positioning. But yeah, over a period of time, that sort of turned into a negative for her. And maybe it was because she was a woman and a young woman. There's certainly an element of that. And I think also because
The Liberal government of Canada was the only party to survive COVID, but they just had to get rid of the leader, Justin Trudeau, and pivot that. Yeah, that's more of an outlier. It's like survivorship bias. Literally 90% of all governments that were incumbent lost after COVID. Even though Trump had retarded policies, one of the main reasons he lost was COVID and all the COVID shit. COVID was a really big thing. Regardless of left or right politics.
there'd been so much.
Fuck Trudeau. To be fair, Aliana's a fuck everybody who's like a politician kind of girl, so I don't think Trudeau's the only one she hates.
High praise of her, just not from within this country, but from all around the world, about the way she handled the communication side, and the management side of the pandemic. Over a period of time,
whenever you type a chat that you hate a certain politicians, you need to put in brackets also all other politicians. By the way, you have never thought to be, but nah, I'm not really a religious person. I'm pretty agnostic. I'm not an atheist. I can't for sure, because I don't really, economics and politics is a big thing of mine, but I don't give a fuck about religious debate. So I just say I'm agnostic and I'm done with it. Fine.
Good for her. People resented the fact that she was getting all this praise heaped upon her at home and abroad for the way she'd managed it. It was quite a dramatic.
Trudeau is a son of Castro.
Change, and then the public mood changed very quickly.
She doesn't like Castro either. She's not a commie. She's not a stinky commie. So she would still hate him.
Around that second lockdown, the Auckland lockdown, the public mood over it.
Trump must handle COVID and lost the 2020 election ahead of the 2024. Everyone got amnesia because people don't talk about this enough. The reason why Trump won 2024 genuinely had nothing to do with his policies or the vibes around him. What it actually had to do with was two things. Biden was dog shit at messaging. He was a very big legislation politician. He didn't do really good media stuff. And two, people thought that if they voted in Trump, they could get back the 2016 economy. Those are the two big things. But obviously that was fucking wrong.
Period of it was quite a fast turnaround in public sentiment there over a matter of weeks probably, and she was never able to recover from that.
Do you think, with the benefit of hindsight, there were times during her period as Prime Minister where too much energy and emphasis went on the communications rather...
No clue, but I hope Trudeau croaks of a heart attack. Okay. So you're not religious or spiritual at all, neither. Yeah, I'm agnostic. For me, it's I don't really care. If a God exists, let him judge me when the day comes. But I'm on this earth currently. I'm gonna just act like how I want to. I'm gonna live my life to its fullest.
Other than some of the other components that would define a successful...
He's too young for this right now.
...period of leadership.
But the communications was the key to it, Jack. It was all about communications. It was a communications exercise as soon as the government started managing the COVID pandemic. And she was putting a huge amount of work in behind the scenes to the policy side of it. I remember talking to Jacinda around about 2021, 22 it would have been, for a column I was writing for the Herald at the time. And she went through her routine of what she was doing to keep on top of all the conversations around the world about management of the pandemic. And she was up to all hours of the night, reading stuff online, reading the BBC and other sort of news websites. She was on the phone to public health people she knew all around the world, Australia, the UK. Her dear friend Darren Hughes, the former MP in London, she was having regular conversations with Darren Hughes to get a good understanding of what the British government was doing. So yeah, she worked incredibly hard to understand the nature of the beast she was dealing with. And of course the public don't see a lot of that, or they don't see it at all. What they see is the communication element of it, and that was absolutely critical as well.
I said that you kind of worked on both sides of the political communications divide. You also worked for a wee window there in government relations, and you're far from the only person who's gone from politics into GR. I mean, there are some who would say that you know, there is a kind of
You can promote yourself as a young liberal guy who has the same heritage as the true cultural icons of America's 80 and 90 Freddie Mercury. True. And Freddie Mercury, my favorite homosexual man.
evolving door between public life and private industry, and that the public should be concerned.
There's only two things I'm missing to be a Freddie Mercury clone, okay? That's being a homosexual and having his aura. Those are the two things I'm missing.
By that, but what's your view when it comes to lobbying?
I think there's a lot of hysteria about it myself. You know, the people who go into lobbying are generally people like myself, as you say, who've worked inside the machine. They know how government works. They know how ministerial offices work. They know about the interface between officials and politicians. They have great knowledge. And so, you know, when they finish those jobs in that building, I guess they monetize that.
If you were gay or bisexual, you could literally be his impersonator.
Knowledge. They've got a lot to offer.
The problem is, Ganju, I just love boobs too much. They're just so nice. That's the huge problem. I just can't get over it. Boobs are just so fun to, you know, just boop boop boop, honka honka. But a lot of people believe Freddie Mercury was bisexual. Now he was probably just gay through and out. To be fair, like it's more like his early relationship with women. It was more just him, because obviously like society wasn't that open to queer people, so it was more of him conforming with like certain dating stuff. But I think he was just gay.
People in the private sector who want to interact with the government, and
maybe you like men the same. The problem is like man titties aren't that like developed, you know. And I'm the only man I know with a fat ass, so there's another thing. Men usually don't have like nice asses you can cup.
you know, this is not new. This has been around since democratic government became a thing. That you know, people have seen have made a living out of preparing people to engage with politicians and decision makers. Could there be more regulation around it? Yes, there probably could be. There could be a bit more openness around it. But you know, lobbying is not going to go away. It's going to be here. It's part of the sort of, you know, political machinery. And as I say, people like me who've worked inside, you know, the parliamentary system, the parliamentary orbit, we've got a lot to offer because we know how things happen and how things work.
Is it democratic? Because I mean, there are only ever certain organisations that can afford a lobbyist, and you know, there are some parts of the public who wouldn't have access to that kind of expertise.
But there's lots of different ways of lobbying politicians. I mean, anybody can approach an MP, anybody can speak to their local MP, anybody can go to the Lords of Parliament and wave a placard, and if you do it in large enough numbers, you get listened to, and politicians will come down and speak to you. So yeah, you know, anybody has the ability to interact with politicians. It's just you know, it happens at different levels, and people who've, you know, got more power and influence, like the captains of industry or the head of Business New Zealand or the head of the trade union movement. I mean, obviously, because of their position and authority, I guess they get a better.
Freddie Mercury had a wife and was in a long-lasting relationship with her, but after many years, she herself said Freddie. Yeah, like I think he was just with a woman because he was just kind of repressing his sexuality. I think that's like the big thing. He was just gay. Like 8 ways from Sunday, the man was a homosexual. All right, and a really sexy one at that.
Chance of being able to interact with you know, with cabinet ministers and the Prime Minister, but yeah, as I say, anybody can potentially do it. It's just that there's people who in positions of power who have a greater ability to do it successfully.
One theme in the book that
who
seems
cares?
to be
True, Simon. Who
is
cares?
the nature of security in politics. And you know that when you first started in the press gallery, there basically wasn't any form of security gate.
No, you didn't have a swipe card
to let anyone in.
No.
Yeah. I think it was one of your first days.
The man loved Pinar. Okay, get off his.
Working with Helen Clark, in which her office received a round of live ammunition.
It was my first day. Bollock turned up. Yeah.
And then over the course of the book, it becomes clearer that politicians require greater security planning and detail and that kind of thing. What have you observed when it comes to the physical security challenges that are faced by politicians, and why do you think those changes have happened?
Well, the world has changed. The world's become a more dangerous place, I guess. And there's been a lot of incidents over the years of politicians being threatened. In the case of James Shaw, you might recall a couple of years ago, being attacked in the street. So yeah, it's there's more anger in the world, it feels like today, and that's reflected in the way that people treat politicians. And you've had instances in the UK, of course, of there's been deaths. Well, there's at least one I can recall anyway in recent times of politicians in a public space. So yeah, it's just a reflection of the sort of changing nature of the world we live in. Angrier, more fickle electorate feel like it's their right to sort of to abuse politicians, and in many cases threaten politicians. And so there has to be a response to that, and the response is that access gets tightened up, and you can't move around Parliament buildings as easily as you could once upon a time. And when you walk through the entranceway now, your bag gets searched and you get x-rayed. Well, there was none of that in the 1980s. You could walk into that building quite easily. In fact, there was a back door off Museum Street that not many people knew about, but it wasn't locked. You could just walk in off Museum Street and go into the back of Parliament buildings and go a-wandering. It was a very easy place to access, compared with the fortress we've got today.
Yeah. Finally, you've had this incredible front row seat from multiple different vantage points over the last however many decades. Ultimately, what has it taught you about parliamentary power in New Zealand?
I think in many ways we're very lucky that we've got a fairly corruption-free, well, it is corruption-free really. I mean, on those corruption indices that get published from time to time, we're always in the top.
That's increased with the National Party, but whatever, who cares?
Yeah, I think it's taught me that we're lucky. We've got great access still. It's easy to to access those in power, and for all its faults and for all the issues and all the argy-bargy, we sort of we function. We function as a democracy, quite effectively. We have a parliament. We have elections every 3 years. They're corruption-free. They're not always tidy outcomes, but we sort of get there. And the fact that politicians can sit down after the election and have those conversations and form governments.
Well, politicians accept the results.
Yeah, they accept the results. Exactly.
Yeah, it's a big as much as we have our problems here, it's our politics is so toxically normal. If you compare us to the States or China or Russia.
Too, I was in France last year, and there was a day of protest in France while Heather and I were visiting Paris, and they brought the city to a standstill. And the reason people were upset and in the streets and protesting was they were just sick of ineffective government. They were sick of all the shenanigans going on. At the time, they'd been through several prime ministers over a 12 or 18 month period, and people were just furious about the way the democracy was sort of grinding to a halt and not serving them well. Well, we don't sort of have those sorts of demonstrations in New Zealand. When people go to Parliament here, it's to protest about some policy-related matter that's upsetting the masses. So yeah, I think it tells me that we're pretty well off in terms of the ability to sort of keep the show running and to keep people with a few exceptions largely content.
That's former journalist and political staffer Mike Munro. His book is
King.
Police have seized Brian Tamaki's firearms and suspended his gun licence.
So the boys are going through my rifles.
Holy
my hunting
fuck!
Rifles, and they've come to collect them. They've cancelled my licence.
Can't remember France had so many prime ministers recently. Yeah, it's some crazy stuff. But they have a tradition of flip-flopping in government. So what can you expect?
It's 2 days ago without telling me. I've been a hunter for 35 years, and I think this has all got to do with simply trying to defend my country, keep New Zealand, New Zealand. They're feeling the heat.
I fucking hate this guy, dude, so much. I fucking despise everything about him.
From me, that's what it is. They're feeling the heat about this immigration problem and the way that they're treating Kiwis. We're not looked after. So the Indians and the Muslims have put pressure on the police. So you see who
The Indian Muslim hit squad came out in full force to take down Brian Tamaki. That's so true. I was actually in the WhatsApp group when they did this. I'm sorry I didn't let you guys know, but I was in the WhatsApp group and I was actually heading that operation myself. Who has had the most prime ministers recently? Yeah, but like South America's fucked. Like if you ever want to talk about like stable politics, South America's the one place you never go.
who's running this country.
This all comes after comments about ethnic minorities, which officials say, quote, cross the line into incitement.
Let's purge New Zealand of Hindus, Sikhs.
You see what I mean? Like once you start researching anything about this guy, it's like, okay, yeah, he should be locked up. He's saying this on
and Muslims. And while we're at it, if they're burning churches down, why don't we burn mosques and their temples down?
Brother, this guy stinks.
Tit for tat.
Now, Tamaki has been served a temporary suspension on his gun licence, which the police say is part of testing whether a person is fit and proper to have guns. Because in order to have guns in New Zealand, you need to be considered a fit and proper person. Brian Tamaki is with me live at the desk this morning. Good morning, Bishop.
Good morning, Ryan.
Blessed day.
It's a great day.
Lovely to see you.
Yeah, you too.
How does it feel to now only be armed with the Bible?
Well, it's also really funny. I bring this up a lot about like media bubbles and all this kind of stuff. Brian Tamaki, whenever he's doing stuff in Destiny Church or when he's on his own platforms, he is the most radical and he will say the most fucked shit. Hassan does this too. And Asmongold, these extremists and these populists, they always love to build media bubbles, but the moment they're in front of mainstream or normal people, they shut the fuck up and they mask on. I guarantee you Brian Tamaki will like turn down a lot of his rhetoric in this interview.
Bible.
Well, it's pretty good. The Bible's a good weapon. Yes, as you say, that
My Majesty's stepmother gave me a lot of dirt on this man and his family. Base.
he came surprisingly, not surprisingly actually, to my place to seize my guns. And over the Firearms Safety Authority's letter given to me by the inspector, 4 of the 6 points were about the Indian Prime Minister Modi. So that tells you everything. That when I spoke up about the human rights abuses that Modi's government and India were happening and exposed that publicly to the people of New Zealand, I felt that they had a right.
Like, what he's doing here is very good as a propagandist because he's like, oh, I'm just looking for humans. Because Modi's doing human rights abuses, which he is, by the way, is against like Muslims and whatnot. But the irony is that Tamaki's literally doing the same. It's just in a different country.
To know and what Luxon and this government was doing.
I think that's fair enough. I think, and you know what? It wasn't you that exposed it. It was media. And
Wait.
Doing.
I think that's fair enough. I think, and you know what? It wasn't you that exposed it.
Holy queer. That's the most queer stance he could have fucking did there. It was July when he did this. Like Pride Month's over, Ryan. Come on.
It was media in India. We know that churches have been burned down. That's not a revelation from Bishop Brian. That's widely reported fact.
Yes.
Okay. So the bit that's the problematic part, is what you said after that, right? Where
Have you ever hit the gym regularly? I did hit the gym a lot, but the problem is now with the farm and with streaming, my like stuff is a bit imbalanced. Like I did 3 days a week, push, pull, legs. But I've got the farm, so I'm still physically active technically. But yeah, I haven't hit the gym in like a couple months now. It's been a while. I like how Germany gives them over established as titles. It's very funny. Keep saying peace and blessings beyond Brian Tamaki. Yeah.
you said, and I've got
What farm? Farms. I have a farm. I own a farm. Well, lease a farm technically. I lease the property and I farm on that.
written down. I think we should reciprocate in kind. Let's purge New Zealand of Hindus. What do you mean purge?
Well, the purge is a word that Modi actually used in ridding his country of Christians.
What did you mean by it?
What I meant by it.
I'm a bit confused. You're an Auckland farmer? What's your PRs? Yeah, I'm an Auckland farmer. So I actually live in like South Auckland, but my farm's in Massey in West Auckland. Yeah. So we do greenhouses. Like, I'm not an outdoor farmer, I'm a greenhouse farmer. Also, Ganja, what do you mean by a PR?
It was what it says. That if
Get rid of them.
well, if
How do you get rid of them?
I was going to say to you, the best way to get rid of them is to get our borders right.
All Indians.
Enforcement there to say that assimilation.
Also, that's not how you get rid of them. If you just enforce your borders, you still got people in. So I'll say the full story.
Excuse me, is required before you come into this country, and we have no adequate assimilation rules.
But so no Indians allowed into New Zealand?
No, I didn't say that. I said that.
Have you got Indians in your congregation?
Yes, I have.
What do they think about this?
Well, they are appalled at this government's immigration laws.
So how can you sit there as a Christian bishop with
Yeah.
Indians in your congregation and say, I don't want Indians in New Zealand, we need to purge them?
Well, I'm simply saying I want New Zealand to stay New Zealand, right?
But
Like, that's a dog whistle, but like that's like objectively like a fascist dog whistle. Like, there's no other way to put it, because like, yeah, like Hitler said the same things. Like, it's just fuck me, dude. I guess. When Brian dies, the Destiny Church will split into two. I presume there'll be a Sunni Destiny energy. So true.
Sense,
Well,
Brian.
there's no.
If you want New Zealand to stay New Zealand, start with your own church.
Well, there's no.
The first Destiny Church member to be elected to Parliament was a woman from the United Future who was an Indian background who did not have citizenship, and she actually had to be removed back in 2002. That's so fucking based. And see, it's always these right-wing movements that have like immigrants and like brown people leading them. It's the funniest shit ever.
Out of your church.
There's no vetting. It's.
But there's like New Zealand has one of the most controlling like border security laws, especially when it comes to ecological stuff. So we don't just accept anybody, but like whatever, I guess.
And our government is responsible for mass immigration that is overcrowding our country. It is changing.
I mean,
We are like the least overcrowded country. Like, we need people. We have the most dispersed like population in like the world. Like, we're an island almost the size of Britain, and we have 5 million people. That's nothing.
it feels pretty spacious to me. I don't know. If
Yeah,
you
like
a driver.
yeah,
You live
like
in
like
Surrey, for goodness
leave Auckland and just take a drive down to Hamilton. That shit is fucking dispersed. You can't see a single fucking house.
sakes. It's
Yeah, I do.
sheep. It's more sheep than people.
Well, Auckland is 50% now over those unborn in New Zealand. We do have a mass
Is anyone
of
threatening?
immigration. Well, we do,
use-
right? It's a mess. It's a big problem.
Well, I don't. Well,
They-
you're entitled to your. You know what? You're entitled to your
Well,
opinion.
I wanted a public conversation about it. a
Okay,
national
fair enough.
conversation.
Well, do you know what? You've got one.
That's right.
So tell me what, in terms of the burning the churches down, has any Hindus threatened you?
Nah, look, you know what?
So no one's threatening you. So the only person
Yeah,
here is
yeah.
the good Christian man making the threats. No one's threatened you. Why are you threatening people? Why are you not out there loving your neighbour?
Well, that's passionate free speech, isn't it? It's not hate speech.
But you're a
No, it is hate speech. Like I brought this in my interview with that's on my YouTube channel with dog shit audio. But like, all Brian Tomic needs to do is make a dot here and a dot here, and then all his followers need to do is connect that thing. Like, that's not free speech. That is hate speech. Like you're making. You're offering a problem and then the solution, but you're not saying you should. If you're just saying, do it peacefully, you don't do it actually. But hey, and these two things are here, by the way. They're gonna do it.
Christian bishop.
Passionate free speech is not hate speech, Ryan.
Do you love your
And-
neighbour?
Yes, we do. I love all of them. I've got no
No,
hate
it doesn't
problems.
sound like you love the Hindus.
I think it's really clear to a lot of Kiwis now that we have to do something about the problem now that's bearing upon...
What problem, Bishop?
problem-
You just
Well,
said
I'll tell
you've
you the
never
problem.
been threatened. You've got Indians in your congregation. You've got more sheep than people. What's wrong?
Well, New Zealand's not New Zealand anymore. And
Like, you have to like I don't think Ryan will do it because the problem with these kind of people is that they very much just say like propaganda terms. But like, Ryan needs to ask him, what does that mean? And you keep New Zealand, New Zealand. Can you please wait? Sorry, dude, I missed the moment when you answered your PR. What is PR? Sorry, I don't know what that means, Ganju. What does PR mean?
But where?
I want to keep New Zealand, Ryan. And it's been
Brian, you're not
Indianised.
making sense.
Well, it's been Indianised.
You're sounding crazy.
well,
Do you know what you're not sounding like? A fit and proper person. And this is part of the problem, isn't it?
Well,
that to have your firearms, you've got to be a...
First of all, Ganju, we've had this discussion. You can't use that word in chat. Oh, Oh, sorry. Okay, PRs. Oh, my bad. I thought you were talking about the farming stuff because you said that after the farming. For me, a bench press PR was 130 kilograms. For squats, it was 120. Yeah, those are my PRs for squats and bench press. That is Destiny Church's members attacked the library for having for a drag. Yeah, I remember. I like that. The whole man up movement too. It like disgusts me. Cause like watching that, like the women who've been abused and shit, bro, that shit depressed me. I watched like a 14-minute interview with like a girl who didn't want to like reveal herself, talking about it, bro. That was the saddest shit I watched. Yeah, it's just super depressing. Eating free speech. Yeah, like Brian Tamaki is the best example of like an abuse of free speech.
Fit and proper person, and you're sounding a bit nuts.
Well, a fit and proper person would know free speech needs to be kept and honoured. And what's happened here is that the government's been irresponsible for mass immigration.
Okay.
And it's destroying.
See, I agree with you. I agree with you. Free speech. I'm free speech for it all day, all night. But what you said.
You're a tough cookie. You look like you look like not the guy who weighed huge, but you bet. Yeah, like I think my weight's like 80 kilograms, but like I'm a pretty lean, mean dude. Like I've got like, as I said, I'm a farmer. Like I've lifted, like when I'm operating the boiler, I'm operating heavy machine. Like I've got like a very big sleeper build. What, like, you know, at Ganji, if you stay in the community for long enough, whenever it comes summer over here in New Zealand, I'll be wearing like tank tops and shit. You'll see how big my fucking shoulders are. Ryan Bridge was very good. Yeah, I will say like I don't know if you brought this up, Simon, but like Ryan's not like he's one of the few like traditional media guys where it's like he's toxically neutral. Where like if there's a left wing guy, he'll be aggressive, but like his aggressive approach to interviews is like, hey, you said this thing, but this thing is a thing, but you said this thing, but this thing is here. But like, so he'll like kind of just attack you on the points, but he won't like, ever, like for example, like he won't ask this question, but like Brian Tamaki like twice has already said like we have to keep New Zealand. What does that mean? But he'll never ask that because that's like an in-depth question. But he will definitely on the surface attack Brian Tamaki a lot. But as I said, because the irony is Brian Tamaki will never be as extreme as he would be if he's by himself in his own media bubble. 130 kilogram bench and you're 180 kgs. Yeah, and 80 kg. Yeah, I am. Yeah. Granted, that show was hard. I feel like I was wheezing when I did that, but yeah.
Went beyond that. What you said went to inciting violence against individual people.
No, it didn't.
But I'll never do it again because that shit, like, I felt like I was really close to like breaking something. So I did it and I've left it after that.
Been kind. Let's purge New Zealand of him.
You're not fat. Yeah, I'm not fat. I'm like 80 kilograms. I'm like 5'10", 80 kilograms. It's pretty decent BMI. Brian is not a fitting proper. He definitely isn't. Yes, I completely agree. As you say yourself.
Hindus, Sikhs, and Muslims. And while we're at it, just for good measure, Brian, you said if we're
No. I have a fat ass. I'm not a fat ass. My ass is fat because I do good. I did squats and stuff, but a nice and like cuppable ass.
Burning churches down, why don't we burn mosques and their temples down? Tit for tat. I'm sorry, that sounds insane.
You know what? I'm not a violent person. Didn't mean that, but that's comparative.
You didn't. Wait, hang on.
That's cap. Stop the cap. That's cap.
You didn't mean that.
It's comparative.
But,
In other words, I
what
would
do you,
say.
what do you mean you
I'm
didn't
really-
mean it? Why
I'm
did you say it
exposing-
then?
I'm exposing the weakness of our politicians and having not adequate borders.
Brian,
to be
if
able
you didn't
to-
mean it, why did you
Well-
say it? You're a man who chooses your words carefully, a man of God.
Well, if you could read that properly, you know that that's not what I
What
mean.
part did I get wrong?
Ryan should read out the exact quote of like we need to like purge Indians and Muslims. He needs to read out that
And,
quote.
Well, burning.
While
yeah,
we're at it,
as there
if
is.
they're burning
Mosques
churches
and-
down,
Yeah.
why don't we burn mosques and their temples down tit for tat? What bit did I get wrong?
Well, I don't believe they belong in a country that should be building churches, not
Brian,
mosques.
you're talking out a hole in your ass.
No, I'm not.
Honestly.
Your regular bench is more than one? No, so my regular is smaller. My regular bench is 60 kgs if I'm doing reps. So my like how I do it is I do 3 sets of I do 4 sets of 6. So when I'm doing bench presses, it's just 60 kgs. Like that 130, I was pushing myself like really hard. Like I'll never do it again because I came this close probably to tearing something.
I'm talking about a whole lot of Kiwis that are
60 kg. No. 60 kg bench. So if I'm doing reps, if I'm just doing exercise normally, I do 4 sets of 6 reps on 60 kg for my bench press.
agree. They agree with this, Ryan. And if this government doesn't change what they're doing now, they're going to find that
How many guns you got?
that people are going to not be voting for them because they're not putting Kiwis first.
How many guns you got?
How many guns I got? I've got about 6 hunting rifles.
One of them was not registered.
No, that was one that was a artifact and a keepsake, and I told them it was never used. It's been sitting in there. And
Nobody in Russia gyms do 60 kgs if they're bench 130 kgs. No, for me, because like I'm not trying to like how you say. I think it's hypertrophy. Like I'm just trying to build muscle endurance. Like I'm not trying to bulk up. Because yeah, you're right. If I was trying to bulk up, I would be doing heavier. But yeah, it's like SpongeBob lift his plush toys, in my opinion. Yeah.
doesn't have any.
And they were okay with that?
Well, they were okay. Yeah.
Okay. So the 6 guns gone, and the license is on hold at the moment.
No, it's suspended. Yeah.
Suspended. And so, what's the next step? You're going to fight this?
Well, absolutely, because you know, if for speaking up passionately, and then getting my guns confiscated because I spoke freely about what I believe is a very important issue.
They're speaking
I think
freely,
that's getting pretty close to.
Then there's inciting violence.
Well, free speech has been endangered in New Zealand, frankly, Ryan.
Okay.
I'm very confused. Does he have 6 guns, or he has 1 antique as well? I think he said one of them was an antique, and I think that was the one that's not registered. I think if you're trying to be good faith, which I really shouldn't be, I think that's what he's trying to say. But like again, I got to make it very clear. New Zealand laws on guns, you got to be fit and proper. If you're constantly talking about purging Muslims and Hindus, regardless of like, we can have the debate of free speech, but that does not make you fit and proper to have a fucking weapon, considering especially what happened in Christchurch.
Let me put it this way, Brian, let's be real, okay? Yeah. So if there was a Muslim cleric running around Auckland saying, I'm going to burn down Catholic churches, would you expect the police to maybe look at this guy?
Oh,
would you expect the police to maybe...
Thing is, in an isolated thing, he would say yes, not only because of his hatred of Muslims, but that fits into his narrative, but he can't because obviously he's doing the exact same thing.
Make sure he doesn't have any guns? Would you expect police to maybe make sure he's not going to burn down any churches? Of course you would, Brian.
Of course I would.
So exactly.
Well, has any
so pot, kettle, black.
Mosques haven't been
pot, kettle.
No, but like he's dodging the question. It's not about no, like no one's done that, but it's about the. He says yeah.
Black, Brian.
Mosques haven't been burnt down in our country. Neither a temple.
Church.
Yeah, but the problem is that the action, if it has happened or not, you're actively inciting it. That's the.
How many?
Fuck my life, dude.
Really, our government is.
How many, Brian? How many churches have been burnt down in our country?
Well, that's good. It's none.
0.
So we want to.
And how many threats have you had?
Yeah.
0.
No, I've had a lot of threats. Heaps of threats.
Brian, lovely to talk to you.
I think Ryan.
Well, I don't want to know what you think because we're done now.
Oh, King! Holy base! Like there's another thing I want to talk about too. Like liberalism as an ideology is pretty moderate, but I've held this opinion for a while. Radical politics, if radical politicians radically approach their politics, even if you have moderate politics, you should be able to radically advocate for them. Like if someone is talking about illiberal stuff, like, oh, we should overthrow the government and we need a dictatorship and we need this, you as a liberal should be like, you should be in prison. Fuck off and get out of my society. Like you should be able to radically approach your moderate politics. Because like we need to defend these things. If you're just very passionate about it, it's not going to hold. So this is, I'm so happy Ryan did that. It's like, just fuck off, you're a degenerate. I do not want to continue this conversation. Simon, is there another interview for Brian Tamaki, or was this the only one? I think that was the only interview from my understanding. I did see someone else do commentary on it, but I presume you don't. Yeah, I don't really want to see someone commentary on it. Unless, they had some sort of like insight that I didn't put out. I thought recently about how our views on liberalism as an ideology is different in some ways. Oh yeah? Can't you explain?
To the ports of Auckland.
Well, tomorrow is going to be a fun day. Have to clean out half of my house within a day for the painters to show up. I've known for a month, lol. This fucking guy. I'm absolutely support the American point of freedom of speech, which is essential. Yeah, no, like the problem is like I'm a big Commonwealth chud. You have to draw the line between free speech and like incitement and hatred and hate speech, because like what Brian Tamaki does is like he'll talk about we need to purge Hindus and Muslims and we gotta stop these people or whatever. And the problem is that's just like a very fun, like we've had hate riots in New Zealand, like the Man Up group that Brian Tamaki like organized, like they actively abuse women and like go after minorities. So like yeah, you gotta be very careful about that kind of stuff. And your opinion on your supporting hateful speech laws? Yeah. Oh my god, my local MP is next to Lux, and I hope to get rid of him by November. Is your current? I'm guessing your local MP is a national guy, right? Well, it's less than that. I was lazy half of it, but I spent the past week just dealing with my grandmother's transitioning her to a retirement home, dealing with all the stupid rules, and helping her to the EI. Oh, okay, got you. All right, that's fair enough.
Gray, the CEO, and all of his team for so generously hosting us here today. Can I also just give a big shout out to Jake O'Flaherty? It's his birthday today, so happy birthday, Jacob.
Todd McClary, okay.
But with that, can I start with the announcement, which is that New Zealand, as you well know, is a trading nation, and National is the party of trade. 1 in every 4 Kiwi jobs are linked to trade, and by expanding market access for our exporters, we create more jobs, we lift our incomes, and we earn the money that we need to pay for our schools and for our hospitals. In the last 2.5 years, National has negotiated and signed 3 high-quality free trade.
Do you think that there can be hateful speech if there are not any threat or enforced of violence? There can be hateful speech. I completely believe this. I think because the Americans have their own set of like views on free speech, but like obviously the Commonwealth and like the British, like the like the democracies influence of Britain, like Australia, Britain itself, Canada, and New Zealand, our opinions of free speech are a bit different. You should be able to like express your political views and whatever, but if you're living in a liberal square, in a liberal framework, if you're actively outside of that and you're advocating for violence on groups on their race, their creed, their religion, their backgrounds, I'm sorry, that should not be protected. Like, we have to keep a stable society. The whole point of free speech is that you should be able to express yourself, but you also can't use that expression to incite violence against other people. The lazy part was like, could I have done work and come home dealing with her every day? Okay, got you. Yeah, fair enough, Hawthorne. Then you're more like of a freedom, a federation, non-globalist view. Yeah, kind of, yeah. The problem is like my opinions of free speech have like changed a lot, and like I'm still very movable on it, but like I don't believe that like you should be able to incite hatred and be like and let go of that. I think that's stupid. Like if someone like constantly was talking about like inciting violence against yellow people, and then one of his supporters killed a yellow person, like that's clearly a immediate correlation.
Agreements within.
In your opinion, you would have been removed by the First Amendment if you were the U.S. I wouldn't remove it, but like I think the way it's written is a bit too open. But like again, the U.S. it's a whole self-determination. Countries are allowed to write laws and have laws they want. So yeah.
The United Arab.
The problem with defining hate speech outside of invoking violence is that it's a very loose term that can start. Yeah, no, like I completely agree with the whole thread. But like my point is like. The context we're talking about is like there's a guy called Brian Tamaki over here who's a big evangelical, and he literally talks about like purging. He says that I'm quoting him, purging Hindus and Muslims, and talking about like yeah and like people who have been associated with him have been like have gone in and harassed trans people and have gone in and harassed queer communities. So like it's like an immediate correlation kind of thing. A bit too open is an essential crucial point. Yeah.
Emirates, and of course the Six Nation Gulf Cooperation Council, while also bringing the New Zealand EU...
Like, for example, if Brian Tamaki was just talking about we need to keep New Zealand, and we need less immigration, if he was just saying stuff like that, it'd be fine. The problem is that he's actively inciting hatred for minority groups. Like, he's actively doing that. And it's actively being done, too, is the other thing.
FTA into force ahead of schedule. We have now completed 23 trade missions to 18 countries, generating more than $2 billion in deals and contracts and commercial commitments. National will not let...
That's why there's a clear difference between saying I hate yeah and yeah. No, but that's what I mean. Like, what's funny enough, I agree with that statement. Like, you could hold an opinion, but if you actively try to incite an action from that the thing you're saying, that's a different fucking story. So yeah. Like, if you were to try to put like my view on free speech on a map, it's quite literally the middle ground between the First Amendment and our free speech laws in New Zealand. It's like right there. Because like I think you should be able to advocate for like fascism or communism or whatever you want to do, but like when you start inciting violence and like trying to talk about revolution and all this kind of shit, that's a bit cringe. To be honest, I think Labour's trade deals were far better than one shot. I agree with you, Simon. One thing I wish want to do, this is another thing talking about media stuff. Labour needs to start robbing National of their talking points, because National, like, they started off with saying, oh, we're the party of trade. If Labour keeps talking about trade deals, people will be like, what the fuck? Like, both parties talk about trade, and you're not the party of trade. You're just a party talking about trade. So, like, that's like another media thing. But I would agree with you that Labour's trade policy is better in regard to Nationals.
We are going to continue our unrelenting pursuit of better access for our farmers, our growers, our winemakers, our manufacturers, and our technology entrepreneurs. Because what could be more important in a very volatile and uncertain world than having the security of free trade agreements?
You can call black person the N-word without any reason if you're not a black, in your opinion, if freedom of speech and it's not going to be a crime. I don't think that's true. I think, like, obviously to your point, if it was a black cop, I would agree with you, but if it's a black civilian, I think the legal standing is different there from what I understand, because that is an incitement to violence if you use a racial slur against that specific race.
For Kiwis. Every container that makes its way out of the world, out into the world from ports like this, of course, means that we get more money into the back pockets of Kiwis up and down the towns and cities across New Zealand. Having our kiwi fruit on shelves in Shanghai supports livelihoods in Te Puke. Having our wine on the menu in Chicago helps people in Otago. And the economic power...
No, it's how it's used. Like, if two civilians in America were to meet, one was white, one was black, and the white guy called the guy the N-word hard R, that's like kind of okay. It's a bad thing to do and you shouldn't be doing it. But like if you were to say you're an N-word and you should die, I think that's a different thing. Crazy shit, dude. Your freedom of speech is no different from Russian. No, it's not. Trust me, it's a little bit more advanced. I support the India free trade deal about 49%, but I'm concerned about the provisions where we have to invest. No, not really, Simon. I'm gonna be real with you. I think it's a pretty good deal. We should be spurring in more international capital and also bringing India more towards the West via FDI, because their FDI is dog shit. And also India's a big, like, the thing with India with their trade, they don't actually have a stance on free trade. So what ends up happening is that whenever their market conditions go down, they just turn the knob of protectionism on. So having a comprehensive free trade deal agreement with India is really good because it keeps their markets open, even if they don't want to keep them open. In the US, so long as it doesn't invoke violence, then it's fair game. As words are words, you can. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like, if you just call a black guy the N-word, it's terrible and it sucks, but like it's legal. But it depends on how you're saying it. Like, if you're saying that, all N-words need to die, that's like a whole different ball game. I mean, like, racial slurs. No, Gandhi, I should make it very clear. Maybe we're misunderstanding each other. Racial slurs alone, as bad as it is, are not like incitements to violence by themselves, but it's how you, in what context you're using the word. No, the last part of my post. And if someone calls someone a slur to get them rattled up, then that would be a breach. Yeah, but yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's in the context you use those slurs. In your opinion, is it a crime? What's a crime? Just to call someone a slur? Words are words, yeah.
Power of trade is why at the last election we promised to secure an FTA with India.
Could you say to anyone in your opinion, excuse me, then call it a day? That would be legal. As much as it sucks, it would be legal. Like, I have no problem with it. It's whatever. But like, if I would say, hey, what's going on, you dirty ass yellow person, then it's kind of a different story. But it's not that different. We can still have a hatred of MAGA. Yeah, true. If someone gets mad at me for saying the N-word while singing to a popular rap song loved by millions, that's their own issue. True, MAGA, yeah. Yeah, like the word itself is not the problem for me. It's how the word is used. Like I talk about, like my whole thing is the thing of incitement and stuff like that.
In our first term. Many said it couldn't be done, but you know that we have now delivered it. That agreement eliminates or reduces tariffs on 95% of our exports and builds the future for our economy by unlocking access to an ever-growing middle class eager to buy our high-quality products.
Dirty plus racial slur is no different from a racial slur. If you were to take someone to court over it, like for example, if like say if it's a white person and then they call a black guy dirty N-word, and then the black guy confronts him about it, that's one thing. But then if the conversation continues and he's like, yeah, you dirty ass N-word, I don't want you in my country and I think, you know, you should die or whatever, then it's like, that's a crime. I will say it, I will talk about it, but I will never call it, yeah. So in your opinion, yeah, so true.
And services at a premium. We now have a...
I hate plus word is for your opinion, by the way. No, like, Ganju, I don't know whether you're trying to misunderstand me or not, but like I agree with you. Like that is not a crime. Like that's just an opinion. But if you were to say like I hate N-words and I want them all to, you know, gay men themselves, that's a crime. I think the Lex Luthor guy, is pretending the Prime Minister of New Zealand gave me all about leverage negotiation. That's so bad.
Reputation as a serious, reliable negotiating partner. And partners come to the table knowing that a deal with New Zealand can be done quickly and, importantly, be done well. And that brings us to today and what comes next for National's ambitious trade agenda. Today, I can announce that if re-elected, National will chase the next 1 billion customers for New Zealand by launching trade negotiations with 7 new priority markets in the next 5 years. And while these 7 markets represent almost 700 million people and economies worth 9.5 trillion New Zealand dollars in total, our exports to these places comes to just 1.8.
My freedom of opinion is I think I should play better games. The problem, brother, like, I'm just kind of stuck in paralysis because I really want to play Black Flag Resynced. I'm a big nostalgia chud, bro. Like that, I'm like, we're gonna be playing that game on stream for a week straight when that comes out. To be fair, I think I've got dinner plans on the 10th, so I don't think I can play on the, I can't play it on the day it comes out, but I'm gonna be playing it to death basically when it does come out.
$1 billion, showing the huge scale of opportunity that exists in front of us. The choice is clear at the next election. National's track record of delivering on trade access to grow our economy, to create jobs and to boost wages, leading to a more secure future for you and your...
All them to die is may apply some threat and can be prosecuted by talking with an officer or a small fine alone, yet likely for yelling, but not about it hateful. No, I'm talking about civilians, not cops. If you went up to like a civilian, as a civilian, and you did that, I think it would be a different threshold. Because, yeah, from what I understand, cops in America have less rights, ironically enough, because they're federal agents or local agents or whatever. But if you're talking about cops, yeah, different story, Ganju. But like, if a white guy called a black guy the N-word and said they're dirty and they need to die, then I think that would be a crime, no? I'm also talking about civil. Okay, all right, yeah. Remember, this guy was a deodorant before he ran an airline. Like Simon, I'm pretty sure didn't the airline he ran wasn't it like losing money when he was running it as CEO? I'm pretty sure that was the case. No.
Family, or the opposite.
I hate plus word. I want them to leave from country is okay. Yeah, no. Yeah, it's okay, but like saying that I want them all to die, if you add that, I think that's a different standing.
Which could see less progress.
It's just funny how people like to forget history of things. Like people see woke people as nothing but like the lowest form of humanity. Like they see woke people as hating for the sake of hating. It's like, do you mean the same woke people that free the slaves? The same woke people that are the reason for people? Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah. Yes, it was the same. Yeah, just like, yes, it's just so stupid, man. But I agree with you, Holthrin. Like wokies and progressives, I despise them because they do not understand the reality of politics. But like, I'm sorry, they do have the moral position. Okay, they have the moral standing. And sold all the terminals in Heathrow Airport. Awesome. I love this guy. Luxon, the best CEO.
More uncertainty and certainly a less...
I will say, bro, I never want to see another CEO in politics. I want them all gone. Air New Zealand and trying to buy, yeah.
Secure future. I'm going to pass over to National's trade spokesperson.
I want them to die, plus I say all of them is maybe just a schizo guy, but are not a huge threat. No, I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think if you were to take that to court, like if you were to take to court and the quote he used against, like, it was a white guy talking to a black guy, like these are both civilians, and he tells the black guy, I want all N-words, especially people like you. No, actually, sorry. I want all N-words to die. I think if you take it to court, I think you would lose on that standing. But if you're a threat directly, some guy, I will slaying your family, that's a threat, yeah. Lack of direct threat, yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe if you were to, yeah. I'm not too educated on that part.
Our great New Zealand Trade Minister, Todd McClay, to provide more detail about which markets we'll prioritise and the other ways that we hope to grow our exports. Thanks so much. Thank you, Todd.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Prime Minister. New Zealand's next billion customers is not just a campaign commitment.
Simon, I feel so bad for you. Your NP has a lisp. This guy's Winston Churchill maxing.
It's a statement of National's ambition for the country. 3 years ago, we campaigned...
In the US, I don't think so. Even I hate all words, then it could... No. Like, Ganju, that's not what I said. I said, if you say I hate all N-words and they should all die, like that part is the important thing. I think if you do that, that's a case you will lose.
On doubling the value of exports within 10 years and on securing that trade agreement with India and their 1.4 billion people.
So it's not the same thing. It's the reason why a lot of right-wingers will never actually say that. Like, they'll always talk about, like, deporting black people or, like, we need to make America white again, but they'll never say that, yeah, all die is getting it worse. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying, yeah. Targeting any group of people, even if it's a lake of them, is a direct threat. Yeah, as I said, that's what I'm saying. Like, if the adding the they should all die part is like a really big thing. Todd has basically been MP for Rotorua for 18 years. Holy man, what are you guys doing in Rotorua, bro? You guys gotta get some more brain cells. But maybe you say all people should die. Same. No, like if you just say all people should die, that's freedom of speech because like you're not targeting a specific group. Because freedom of speech has to respect. Respect you based on your race, creed, sex, and minority. And, like, yeah, it's supposed to respect minority positions. But if you were to say all N-words need to die, that's a very specific, like, directed threat against a group of people.
Agencies, businesses, sectors, individual companies have joined us, setting their own strategies to meet.
Unfortunately, Tapuki is in the same electorate, known for other rural. Yeah, it just sucks that, like, because I'm a farmer myself, but like yeah, a lot of farmers and a lot of business people, even though technically speaking, like a left economic policy could generate a lot of internal demand and make like our domestic market much more healthier. Like they're just like they're right wing for the sake of being right wing. It's not even like about their policy positions, but yeah, it sucks.
That goal over the coming.
I think like McNulty, from what I understand, the Labour guy, he's from a rural area. I'm pretty sure, isn't he? So I think Labour's doing a very good thing reaching out to the rural community because like there has to be a rural backbone for Labour too, not just an urban backbone.
Decade, and we're on track with exports growth compounding at around 8% per year over the last 3 years, doubling the value of our exports as we chase New Zealand's next billion customers will create jobs, lift incomes and add prosperity for every New Zealander. The 7 markets we will look to open negotiations with in the next 5 years fall into 3 categories. The first is Europe, Switzerland and the EFTA countries of Iceland, Liechtenstein and Norway, some of the wealthiest consumers in the world paying premium prices for high quality food. And then South America, Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay.
McNulty is in Wairarapa, very interesting area. They elected New Zealand's first transsexual MP based Wairarapa. Holy progressivism. You may think this way, but there's a huge conflict because of hateful speech. Liechtenstein, like what this party is trying. Remember, like Simon, we brought this up ages ago in a previous stream, but like our problem is a demand side issue. Kiwis cannot afford our stuff, and the problem is like luxury products and stuff like that don't build an economy. It just builds upon one. It makes it more technical. If you want to actually like get the economy running, you need to be selling general goods, en masse, like mass production kind of thing. Like for example. Like, you don't build an economy of snack cucumbers. You build them off cucumbers. Because it's a general good. That just to give you, like, a broad example. You could possibly be protected by the First Amendment, yeah.
By anchoring a continent of more than 400 million people ready for our agri-tech, services, food and beverage. And South America is getting closer to New Zealand. New direct air links are on the way, helped by our transit visa changes, bringing more trade and tourism. Trade deals in the region will make the most of those opportunities. and some emerging giants, Bangladesh and Nigeria, among some of the fastest growing developing economies on earth, with young populations and rapidly expanding middle class demanding safe, high quality food. Bangladesh, as an example, is a major dairy importer. Building on the success of the India Free Trade Agreement, a deal with Bangladesh will be critical in protecting and growing our dairy access as international competition intensifies. And Africa will be to the next decade what Southeast Asia was to the last. New Zealand must secure first mover advantage and a strong foothold as our African economies start to trade, or we risk losing out to the EU, to the US and to China. A second tranche of 6 will follow over the decade, South Africa, Turkey, Colombia, Morocco, Sri Lanka and Mauritius. 13 economies, almost 1 billion people, New Zealand's next billion customers. Now,
Todd Father was the MP of a different area, and he was a cabinet minister, and Robert Muldoon's government. Anybody connected to Robert Muldoon's government, I consider them already brain dead to begin with. And it also had to do with community service for robbing your chair.
Some will say this program is too ambitious, but our record this term says otherwise. As the Prime Minister said in this term, we've completed the trade agreement with the UAE in just 3 months, New Zealand's fastest ever trade negotiation, eliminating 98.5% of all of our exports tariffs from day one. And the Gulf Cooperation countries, done in 6 months, 6 nations with $4 trillion each year in their economies, duties eliminated by 99% over 10 years, and India in just 9 months, that deal that we were told couldn't be done, covering 95% of our exports. And we haven't just been doing free trade agreements, we've built new trade architecture for an uncertain world. The AOTE's agreement with Singapore, the world's first essential supplies agreement, now our template for like-minded countries. We've enlarged the CPTPP with Costa Rica's accession concluded and negotiations with the UAE, Indonesia, the Philippines and Uruguay starting this year. We've grown the DEPA agreement, the Digital Economies Partnership Agreement, and launched the Green Economies Partnership Agreement.
Todd spent $160,000 of taxpayers' trade conference in Cameroon. How do you spend $160,000 in Cameroon? Did he buy the fucking country?
And we've concluded the ACTS agreement, the agreement on climate change, trade and sustainability. As the Prime Minister said, the world knows a deal with New Zealand can be done quickly and can be done well, and that's why partners keep coming to our table. The new agreements only pay off when Kiwi businesses use them, so we'll also build 3 practical tools using AI, covering tariffs, rules of origin and market access, so that exporters know the advantages we've won for them, they can use them more easily and reduce costs to get into markets.
We spent on flying there, him and the Labour Trade spokesperson Damien O'Connor. Okay, got you.
We'll shift New Zealand, the New Zealand Trade and Enterprise from a follow to a lead and follow model, and launch the next 200 program to back the next generation of exporters. Complete at least 23 more trade missions with a sector-specific focus and measurable commercial outcomes, and eliminate a further $1 billion of non-tariff barriers to get costs down for New Zealand exporters. Under national, exports have already grown from $94 billion to $114 billion. The next billion customers is an ambitious goal. On our record, is it a deliverable one? Only national will keep the doors open for New Zealand exporters to the world. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Todd. And with that, Todd and I are happy to take questions. It's great to have Candice with us, our candidate for Auckland Central as well. But let's get into questions around the policy announcement, and we'll take others for the rest of the day. Yes. Well, we have a very busy Trade Minister. He's in contact with lots of people, but Todd, I'll let you talk to some of the specifics about that.
Yeah, thank you. And a number of meetings around the world, from the WTO ministerial meetings, of which negotiations have been 2. In New Zealand, I've been fortunate enough to be a vice chair at each of the 2 meetings, and also a chief.
The woman who works at Palantir, it's just like this is like the evil government, dude. Like everything about it. The CEO who lost money in an airline company, and the fucking woman who works at Palantir, like, brother, couple.
Negotiator. We've engaged quite widely and extensively. The list we've come together is not only the countries where there is opportunity for New Zealand exporters to do well, but they are countries that are like-minded and that we have had early conversations.
Yeah, and she's running against Chloe Strobel. Yeah, I don't think she's like. I think Chloe Strobel's gonna win her seat again. Obviously, Auckland Central is not exactly the most conservative place. I've seen the polling. I think the Labour candidate's doing pretty good in Auckland Central now. But I think Chloe will still win the seat, just because she has so much clout. Like, she's a lot of political capital and all that, and she's also a very big figurehead.
The stage to announce any launch yet. We've got a campaign to fight and win, but it's a clear signal to New Zealand and New Zealanders that where others said an India free trade deal was not possible, they too might say the next billion customers is not possible. Under National, we will deliver.
I forgot the Labour candidate in Central Auckland, Chinese background, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she does. Or he does. I forget who is. Let me just see. Auckland Central Labour. Oscar Sims. No, it's a white guy. Unless I'm looking at the completely wrong thing. Or is something else I'm looking at?
Well, I'd like to get all of them done, but ultimately you need a willing partner. We need to get on with it.
I think the exciting thing is that when you look at the next phase of ambition that we have, is that, you know, what Todd's proposing is that we infill the bits in Europe that are high value.
You would have been the candidate in 2023. Oh, okay, got you. All right. It's Chinese lady this time. Got you. Yeah, but the polling I saw in Auckland Central, I think Labour is doing better than it last time. But yeah, I think Chloe Strobel will still win the seat. She's just like, as a figure, she's got more political clout. So.
Consumers that we don't currently have locked up through the EU or the UK FTA. Certainly we want to have an anchor in South America now with Brazil, Argentina and Uruguay. And then when you look at Nigeria, one of the fastest growing economies in the world, one of the biggest economies, oil-rich country in Africa, it's a clear anchor and a clear priority for us to focus on there, along with Bangladesh as two of the big emerging global South economies. And so, you know, it's been an exciting ride actually over the last 2.5 years as we've opened and negotiated and closed, 3 agreements and then accelerated the EU into force much earlier. But now it's about going out with even more confidence, more ambition to create more diversification. And the great thing for Todd and I to observe over the last 2.5 years is that our exporters.
Coalition gets back into government. New Zealand first. Going to stop them doing trade deals? Yeah, they definitely will. I don't know. I'm hoping to the Lord above that the Labour government does not need to go into coalition with New Zealand first. I will not. I want them out of the conversation, because it is just, like Kwele Wong said it the best. They're the handbrakes on our government.
Are much more agile, and they're able, if they're not making enough money in America, they'll
New Zealand first will be stronger in that. No, yeah, they're going to gain seats, but my hope is that hopefully Labour takes a lot of seats away from wherever National has them currently, so that they get a stronger majority. Because I think the Greens will have like 11 to 13 seats, something like that. And I think Kwele Wong will get 1 or 2, like the top party. So my hope is I just do not want them in government, bro. Like, I know that I'm kind of coping, but I really do not want them in government.
Move that product into Europe or into the UK, into China, into India, now into Southeast Asia, with the upgraded relationships that we've had. So, we just want to create more optionality. Our job is to create the conditions for growth, and then it's up for our exporters to support them, as Todd said, with a renewed focus at NZTE and in our delegations being more sector specific in some cases, to actually make sure we create those opportunities for those exporters.
So when can we expect talks to begin with each of these markets?
Yep, I'll let Todd talk to that.
Well, ultimately, we've had a wide range of conversations about trade and the importance of rules. We will do the same in the next term of government as we have of this. On day one, get on the plane, start talking to people and look to launch negotiations.
Is there a danger of spreading yourself too thinly? I mean, there are parts of the India free trade deal that I'm sure dairy exporters won't be happy with, because it was all done so quickly.
No, I disagree completely. It's an outstanding.
I think Labour and New Zealand First government is very unlikely. New Zealand One support base is very like Winston Peters was obviously able to do a coalition with the Labour government before because NZ First hadn't gone full MAGA tilt and they hadn't gone full right wing populist. But like now, I think even what's ironic is I think Winston Peters has kind of dug himself into a hole. I think he wanted to coalition with Labour, but like he's already antagonized his base so much against left wing people. I don't think it's possible. It would like fracture the party, in my opinion. The majority of Labour supporters, I know, yeah, and I think Chris Hipkins outwardly said that we really like do not want to do this.
Deal. It's a world-class deal. There is no country on earth that has a better deal with India on dairy than New Zealand. And dairy is a challenging category for the Indians in particular. But if you look at what we've negotiated with the high-value dairy products that we can get in, the re-exporting of infant formula and powdered milk, we've done a really good job there. So, I think people, I wouldn't just because we move fast, we did a high-quality deal fast because we know what we're doing and we have confidence about how to do.
I think Labour should not rule out New Zealand First too very late, and just to cause mischief amongst the coalition parties. Yeah, like I think Hipkins, he didn't make like a strong statement, but it's more like we just don't want to do this kind of thing. We'd rather not. But I agree with you. It would be really good to keep practicing. Like, to be fair, that coalition's already blowing up internally, like without Labour really doing anything. Like it's kind of a sit back and like grab popcorn kind of thing. Like again, I've said this and I'm willing to stand on this. I genuinely don't think it was the National Party's platform to disavow Top. I think Luxon just had a crash out and he lost his shit and he denied ever working with Top. I'll stand on that.
Commercial deals well, and I think any other country, go talk to them, and they've asked a lot of questions of us in recent times about how did we pull off such a high quality deal with India. So now's the next phase. It's not about putting ourselves too thin. We have ruthless ambition and aspiration for this country. When 1 in 4 of our jobs are tied to trade, and the companies that export pay higher wages and salaries to their people, this is how we lift our incomes here in New Zealand. So we're going out in the world with confidence, and we're going to go out there and actually smash it.
There's been a lot in recent months, Prime Minister, about disruptions and uncertainties over tariffs and Middle East conflict. So, is there anything about where we are right now that causes you concern about the ability to succeed?
No. This is exactly why we need to do more of this, because in a volatile.
To be honest, I think Luxon would do a deal with Top if it means he's Prime Minister for another 3 years. Luxon has been very... Yeah. No, but like I'm thinking like he should not have said what he did about Top. That's what I'm saying. It's like that I think wasn't the National Party's platform. I think he just had a crash out moment, basically. But like he probably would if it meant denying Labour a government and being Prime Minister again. I think he would.
An uncertain, chaotic world as we're all experiencing, actually what New Zealand needs is to create more optionality, more diversification in its trading relationships and partnerships. And thank goodness that we started from day one when we came to power 2.5 years ago, because those agreements, those upgrades and those comprehensive strategic partnerships with ASEAN, the arrangements we've done with South Korea, coupled with all the work on non-tariff barriers, $700 million saved, all of that work has stood us in really good stead. And so that's actually a call for why you want to do more of it, because you actually want to work with like-minded friends, you want to work in partnerships, and you want to be innovative. And if you think about what Todd has created, and he's going to be chairing a meeting here in New Zealand.
Half a Day's agreement is talking about Labour started a lot of these negotiations. Basically, they're stealing all. Yeah, they are. Like, it's kind of like a right-wing trend where like left-wing government will come in and set up a program, because like economics doesn't happen in a day. It takes time for these things to kick in. So like they'll make a policy or do something in like the first year of government, and then like the fruits of that will only be seen like in the second year of the next government cycle. So yeah, it's just like it's the same thing with the Republicans and the Democrats. Like Biden did the Inflation Reduction Act in 2022, and the effects of that was only really felt in 2025, and Trump is taking credit for all of those like new projects and stuff. So yeah.
Second meeting of the Future of Investment and Trade Partnership of 16 countries that are coming to New Zealand to talk about what more they could do on trade. You think about the deal we did with Singapore, a world-leading deal on essential supplies. You think about the pioneering work we've done with Singapore and others, that actually are free traders. We're going to continue that work and be right on the front foot and be very aggressive and very assertive about that. No, this is a National Party policy. We're saying when we get re-elected, day one, just like we did on India, Todd hit the planes and away he went. And it's going to be the same deal here.
But wouldn't it be sensible to change it because...
No, National Party policy, and if you want to be sensible, the only thing to do is party vote national. It's as simple as that.
You may also need bipartisan agreement if this is the long-term thing.
Sure, my friend, but we actually are ambitious for New Zealand, and we have brutal ambition and aspiration, positivity, can do, and we're out there in the world smacking it. And so,
I'm never going to shut up about this. Their ambition for New Zealand was going to be $730 million in tax deductibility cuts for landlords and taking $542 million away from school lunch programs. That is their ambition for New Zealand, okay? I'm never going to shut the fuck up about this, because that is like a blatantly evil thing, okay?
Well, no, this is about advancing New Zealand's interests, and we've seen some politicking around the Indian FTA, but we've got it done. We delivered it. We have Prime Minister Modi coming here on Friday and Saturday. The first time we've had an Indian Prime Minister here in 40 years. That speaks to the strength.
Basically, I've already seen Todd in my elections in the last 3 years, 4 times in all of them. This year, why he drives around and his big blue stupid Jeep around town. I think I already asked you, Simon, but what's the polling looking like for your Labour candidate? Is it close, or is it like a very competitive? It's very like the Labour guys in the back foot. Like, what's the polling?
Of the relationship that Todd and I we've been able to build over that period of time.
And which of these countries national offers the biggest export growth, or is maybe the biggest untapped market for us?
Well, I think to think about the first 7, you've really got to think about the infill job we're doing with those 4 countries essentially in Europe, but are in 2 trading blocks, Switzerland and the Iceland, Liechtenstein and Norway. Then and that's about just infilling all of Europe so that we've got the full footprint there that we want. The second piece is really about opening up South America. You're seeing increasingly, through New Zealand, that's the most efficient way to link China with South America, actually through New Zealand, and that creates an opportunity for us, and we've already got air services moving freight and cargo that way, but getting an anchor point into Brazil, Argentina and Uruguay, 400 million customers, really important. And then, as I said, big global South.
We haven't found any intel polling for Rotorua's Labour candidate, previously as a top polling city councillor in the city, and he's former ethnically Chinese background. He might help us with the Asian vote, and he's roughly around the age of 26. He was elected. Okay, got you. All right. And what are your general feelings about the candidate? Do you think he'll win, or do you think it's going to be very competitive between him and Todd?
Countries like, as we've done the deal with, India, we want to open up with Brazil. Obviously, Nigeria is in that mix as well as one of the big economies in the world, one of the fastest growing, alongside Bangladesh as well. So there are 3 different approaches. Really high value, wealthy consumers in Europe. Really huge opportunities for many of our primary industries in South America, and then obviously working with growing economies like Nigeria and Bangladesh, getting in on the ground floor.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking to Hulthren with your free speech stuff. Sorry, Ganju. Are you talking about like the way Hulthren was talking about freedom of speech, or how you were talking about it? I think he has a close chance, but he might narrowly miss out in Labour and put him. Okay, I got you. All right, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Growing with them as they grow and move from low income to middle income to high income.
I don't have Hulthren on Twitch chat. No, because you were talking to him for a while, so I thought you were still talking to him. So what do you mean by that? But where did you say it? Like, do you agree with that kind of freedom of speech? Do you talk about like how he was talking about it, or how you were talking about it?
We have trade agreements with them all already. Yes, as part of the RCEP agreement, we have access to them.
Are we aiming to grow our trade with Indonesia?
We are going to have foot on the accelerator growing trade with everybody, but if you think about it, RCEP has been one of the very good comprehensive.
What's your feelings on this? Well, yeah, as I said, generally speaking, like I don't think words in themselves are like an incitement to violence. My problem is that when you do certain things, so like if you're saying like I hate N-words, that's not a problem. But if you say I hate N-words and they should all die, that's like a different category. And then if you specifically say I hate this N-word and he needs to die, that's even worse. That's kind of like how I feel on it.
Agreements that covers most of Southeast Asia. We've also upgraded our ASEAN status to comprehensive strategic partnerships with all of those countries diplomatically. And so we have huge opportunity in Indonesia. We know we've got still huge opportunity in Southeast Asia. But now you start to look at a trade footprint that is China. Yes, our largest trading partner, and, as I keep saying, China and strategy, Southeast Asia, Northeast Asia, India, the Gulf, Europe, UK, and obviously now we're opening up South America and heading into Africa.
Negotiating on 7 fronts. Does this mean anything for a resource or the negotiating team?
Yep.
Well, whenever I go to a meeting overseas, you get other countries that have very, very large delegations. To a man and a woman, our negotiators are better than all of them. So we turn up with a modest contingent of people who are respected, and they do very, very well. And we have the resource available. So you wouldn't see that all of the negotiations would start on day one. It is ambitious. It's over a period of time, but the resource and the expertise is there.
Can you explain what those new tools for business?
Well, so if you think about it, so ultimately, if you take an example, if you want to take advantage of the European Union Free Trade Agreement that's been in place for 2 years now, and it's just $3 billion worth of exports to the European Union because we're able to get it in force much more quickly. For an exporter of a product, they need to work out what the tariff rate is, what standards they have to meet, what certification, how to do that. We believe AI can help with a lot of that, and at the same time, it can say, if you now have met the conditions of the European Union, here are 4 or 5 other markets you're able to go to as well under similar standards, and here's the paperwork. So we want to get the cost down, make it easier for people to get information.
But the good news for Labour Rotorua, there's no Green candidate. Okay, that's good. That means there won't be much of a split vote. Is there an NZ First candidate or an ACT candidate in Rotorua? I'm guessing there will be, right?
And get their products and their goods and services to market a lot more easily. Much of this information in different places on government websites or through chambers of commerce is available using AI to pull it together and actually give New Zealand exporters a real advantage, not only the market they want to go into, to learn about all the other opportunities that are there as well.
Yes. Oh, no, I think he's going to be incredibly well received across the country. I mean, it's fantastic he's coming. I invited him to come. He's doing, it's the first time we've had an Indian Prime Minister here in 40 years. We have a great personal relationship, as Todd has built a great personal relationship with the Trade Minister as well. And I think that relationship has enabled us to actually to discuss about the possibilities of what we can do together, which in turn has led to the FTA, which in turn will create benefits for both countries. And so, to have a 5 million people country do a deal with India in the way that we have is pretty special. It isn't common, and I think we should be celebrating it because this is a New Zealand thing and a Kiwi thing, and it's going to lead to huge growth and opportunity for
NZ First and ACT are a bit of a mystery. The concern will be if Te Pāti Māori put up a candidate, but not guaranteed. Okay. I don't think they will. We're already so far into the race. I don't think they will. Modi coming to New Zealand will be interesting. It will, yeah, definitely.
New Zealanders going forward.
I feel like the US freedom of speech is moderate, but its closest thing ever to freedom of speech is Athens. Yeah, remember, like, freedom of speech is not just, like, about just saying whatever. You also have to be responsible about it so you can have a stable society. Because you don't want to make a freedom of speech system where everybody's just, like, shouting, basically. And, like, doing retarded shit. So it's like there's like an educated discussion you have to have about it.
Well, I think we did a high-quality negotiation at speed. I think it was probably one of the fastest deals that India ever did because we had that set up at the beginning, at the top, between the relationships between the Prime Ministers and the Trade Ministers. The 4 of us determined to do it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, freedom of speech, the ultimate version of it is you can do that, but, like, obviously, freedom of speech, you have to have an educated, like, opinion about it. You can't just say, yeah, you can just yell and do whatever. Because that's technically freedom of speech. You should be able to do that in the ultimate version of it, but yeah.
expected them to do it. Where we came into the challenges or difficulties, we were straight up with it.
Never
right
shot
from the
fire, yeah,
beginning.
in the full cinema,
And
yeah.
so I think, you know, we've got built very good capability, and I think for a lot of the partners that we're talking about wanting to do business with, they look at the Indian FTA, they look at the GCC deal.
I'm gonna make a coffee. I'll be back. All right, I'm back. Would you agree that if you're not a threat to anyone and you're not yelling, then you can say anything anywhere? By the way, you mentioned fighting words on your previous stream and would believe me when I said that there is practically prohibited. The last time Supreme Court had approved a case only for last Let's Fight was when I looked at the AI thing. It literally said that fighting words were not protected by the First Amendment. That's what it said. I can go research more of that, but I'm pretty sure like fighting words are still like not protected by the First Amendment.
They look at the UAE deal, and New Zealand genuinely has built an exceptional reputation.
It is, but First Amendment is stronger law. No, I don't think it is, because like here, let me just search it up. Is fighting words protected by the First Amendment? Yeah, no. Right here. No, fighting words are not protected by the First Amendment. The U.S. Supreme Court established this in 1942. Yeah, the same case you're bringing up, so no, they're not protected. Yeah, First Amendment's constitutional right, but the fighting words are not covered. That's like blatantly proven by the Supreme Court.
In the last 2 years as being people who actually understand trade well, are deeply commercial, and can build good quality deals and do it fast. Sorry? Oh, look, there'll be lots of components to the deal.
Like 80 years ago for 100. It doesn't matter, Ganju. Like if there's not like if you could bring me a Supreme Court case right now that came out saying, oh, you know what, actually fighting words are cringe and the First Amendment's better, then it's a different story. But like this is how legal precedent is set. Like it's from like laws that are like decades old. So yeah. Because the whole point of the Supreme Court is to set a standard legally. That's it. So even if it's from 1942, it does not matter, Ganju. Like the fighting words are not protected by the First Amendment. This law is not existing realistically. It doesn't matter, Ganju. Like the whole point of the Constitution is to set a framework. They're not laws. It's a framework. Practically haven't been. It does again. Like I cannot like explain to you. Like I'm not a lawyer, but I'm pretty sure. Like I'm like 100% certain that doesn't matter how old the case is, unless it has been debated in the Supreme Court. Doesn't matter.
As there always is, and they'll vary by different countries, but we'll get into that in due course.
How can the proposed immigration changes be consistent with discrimination clauses in the FTA?
Which clause? Which clause? Which immigrations?
Non-discrimination is non-discrimination for other partners. How can it be
If you wanted to apply fighting words to the potential of your success, is 1 on a billion, I think. Well, that's whatever, guy. Like, again, you're making a strong claim here. If you could bring me any case law that, like, someone said that, oh, these are fighting words, so someone abused their free speech and they lost that case, then I would change my opinion. But that's not the fact. The Supreme Court decided, and no case law has been proved that fighting words are protected by the First Amendment.
Yeah, well, look, New Zealand takes its obligations seriously. In all trade agreements, there is detailed negotiation, and both sides always understand both their obligations.
Million cases have tried, but failed. Yeah, because the Gandhi, like, you're kind of stuck in a rabbit hole. The reason why they failed is because you're wrong. If the Supreme Court decided this thing, like, the Supreme Court, as much as they disagree with some of their opinions, they're not stupid. They understand how to translate law. So, like, the reason why nothing has happened in 90 years is because that standing makes sense. The only reason laws change is if the standing doesn't make sense.
Obligation and commitment. I'll be very clear, we will meet our obligations under the Indian Free Trade Agreement in all senses.
Can you kind of, I guess, explain a little bit how it's non-discriminatory if it applies to only the Indian users?
Well, largely, I'm not going to get into the detail of that because ministers are working through and still making decisions. But ultimately, there are lots of examples of trade agreements that treat different countries differently depending upon what has been negotiated. But I want to be very, very clear, New Zealand always meets its obligations, has taken on a trade agreement, and as far as...
The reason they failed is you can all just say, I was using the First Amendment and don't really threat anyone. Worked in 100% of cases in the last 90 years. All right, Ganju, you're making the claim here, so you got to get me something. If you can bring me a case where someone used fighting words and they won their case because the fighting words were protected under the First Amendment, I'll change my position. But from what I have seen, the Supreme Court decided that fighting words are not protected by the First Amendment, period. We're talking about millions of cases. Find me one. I just need one. Give me one case that fighting words ended up being protected by the First Amendment. Give me one.
The India-New Zealand Free Trade Agreement, we will meet all of our obligations. There is no reason for people to be concerned.
So is it because this visa is effectively just a creature of the NPA, is that right?
Well, you're going to have to wait until the final decisions are made that come out. But as an example, there is a...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Fighting words are not protected. You're right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, so, like, the Supreme Court decided fighting words are not protected. So, like, yeah.
A new visa being created for India that no one else in the world will have, and it's based upon that negotiation. But I say again, we always meet our obligations under free trade agreements. We will, in as far as the India-New Zealand Free Trade Agreement is concerned as well.
Is this a cornerstone of your election campaign?
But you can any day say that it wasn't a fighting word, and the court would approve it in the last 90 years for 1 million cases. It's almost impossible. Like, I'm not gonna live in, like, legal hypothetical. If there's a case and someone says this guy used fighting words, the case dies. If you can prove it. Once you prove fighting words, it's over. And, like, if they can't prove it, obviously, that case is not possible.
Hey, you've got a lot of kudos for getting the India one over the line. Is this what your election campaign will be based on?
This is us saying, look, we believe in the potential of New Zealand. We've got to fix the basics that Labor broke, which we've been doing, and we've actually got to build the future. And when you look at the future of how do we make this country more prosperous and wealthy, how do we lift the floor in our living standards, one of the ways we do that is through more trade and investment. And that's why we believe it's one of the 5 big pillars that we know lifts and creates more wealth in a country, and that's why we're out there in the world doing it. We know, as I said earlier, that the exporting companies pay higher wages and salaries to New Zealanders, and so we've got to create more opportunities for them. And so we are a trading nation, and we're good at it, and we've got better at it. And so that's why we want to go now, put the foot on the accelerator and go for it, and do so well, and do so with a view of actually building out a country that is wealthier for our kids and our grandkids. That's what it's about. And so I appreciate, there'll be lots of people who often, I've observed a lot of negative talk about an Indian FTA, but I just say, go talk to any other country about the deal that we've struck and done, and we've got high praise for it internationally. And here in New Zealand, our focus should be that every time as Todd will say, when we reduce a tariff for a kiwi fruit that ends up actually going into India that previously couldn't go there, or when we lost huge amounts of market share in India because we couldn't send our lamb into that market, and we went from 90% to 10%. That is we want to accelerate that so we create more jobs, more growth, higher incomes. That's how it translates. And so, these are technical things for sure.
Do you think deeply on how regularly everybody have tried to apply fighting words, but even lawyer just know instantly not going to work? First Amendment still exists, and they can just say it wasn't trying to start a fight or a threat anyone. Then you would realize that those laws, in fact, practically prohibited every lawyer. If someone used fighting words and you can prove they have done them, it's the case is done. Like, obviously, like there might be different standards to like actually get fighting words as like a label on something, but like I'm not fighting on that. Like I'm saying that if something are fighting words, it's over. What you're trying to tell me is that like, oh, it's really hard to prove fighting words. Like, yeah, I would probably agree with you, but I'm fighting in the world where like the fighting words have already been proven.
They're big agreements, but they are very, very local in terms of what they do for regional economies across New Zealand.
So if you go out on the election trail, then you're going to be saying exports, trade, when you go and give speeches then, or is it going to be like?
Well, what we're going to be saying very clearly is the choice is pretty crystal clear. You either have a government that actually has a long-term economic plan to grow this economy and to improve the affordability for New Zealanders, or you have the alternative, which is back to the future of tax more, spend more, borrow more, and that has caused huge pain and suffering for New Zealanders, as we've been evidence over the last 2.5 years. But
Simon, correct me if I'm wrong. My memory might be right. My memory might be corrupted. Who's been in government for the last 2.5 years? Just so stupid.
we're in a recovery. Look at the first quarter results.
1,000 cases in a year for 90 years straight. They were everything and even more than you and I can imagine. 0 cases with fighting words would be approved. I mean this in the least insulting way possible, Ganju. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Could you like explain better? Because I don't think I got your point.
Growth. Look at our trade surplus in April in the middle of a fuel crisis. Look at the forecast that we've had just in the last week. We've had a $3 billion improvement to our deficit situation forecast. And so, we have growth aspirations, and that is the thing that we have to do.
I think they're called National Ag New Zealand Plus Government Coalition, yeah. It's just so stupid, bro.
Not put a wrecking ball through the economy with a capital gains tax courtesy of Chris Hipkins, a wealth tax, inheritance tax.
Like, remember, FDI was like $4 billion when the Labour government was in power. Now it's 1.7. You can literally track how much they fucked our economy.
Income tax rises, corporate tax rises, trust taxes, gift taxes from what we see on the other side with Labour, Greens and Te Pāti Māori. And so for us, we are the party who believes strongly in growing the economy. And that is how we're going to make New Zealand